What is up, RotoGrinders? Happy Tuesday, the start of 2 hours of nonstop MLB DFS conversation. It starts right now. I'm Dean, joined by two of the best DFS players of all time, for sure. More successful ones. We got Head Chopper. Chop, welcome. What's up? How's Tuesday treating you?
Is it just me, or is the music still playing in the background?
They slowly fade it out. Yeah, they made an executive decision to not abruptly cut it off, but we're in the middle of the slow fade. This is your first dance with the slow fade, so I see how that threw you off a little bit.
Slow fade. All right, yeah, it's going fine, Dean. Not it's
a little bit rattled.
No, I'm not rattled. That's not me, but another day. Just looking at some basketball, a little baseball tonight. Lots of good stuff going on, and yeah, Dean. And I found out an obscure fact today, Dean. An obscure fact.
A real fact, or is this a chop fact?
Real fact, because I'm a big University of Houston fan.
Yeah,
and all that good stuff. And so next year we'll be getting a freshman coming in out of high school named Mercy Miller. Okay. Top 50, roughly top 50 in the United States, in the country, in basketball, coming out of high school next year, right? Big time recruit. His father is Percy Miller.
Percy Miller? Is that the rapper? Is
Master P?
Rapper? Yeah, Master P.
Yeah, that's right. His father.
I was getting there.
Now,
well, he was an agent. Wasn't Percy Miller an agent briefly and didn't work out for him? Am I making this up?
I don't know.
Wasn't he somebody's agent?
I don't know about that, but he is a really good basketball player. Like, the father, Master P, is actually, says he could have gone pro. He was really good. But, so I was like, all right, man, this kid's good. He's coming next year. We might get his brother too, who's named Percy Miller, but he's not as good. He's just a walk-on. So, but then
it's like a Giannis Thanasis situation. It's like, listen, you want one guy, you got to take Thanasis too, basically.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just more interesting. He also has another son that's like Percy Miller or something. Like, I don't know, everything rhymes with Percy. But anyway, that's beyond the point. I was like, what's the connection? Besides, you're good coming for a really good coach. Maybe that's what he wants. He wants his kid to get some tough love. Little known fact, Dean, I found this out today. Master P actually went to the University of Houston.
There you go.
That's weird. Yeah. He dropped out after a month, but that's what he claims as his college, though.
He started a sports agency in 1998. I was not prepared to talk about Master P at all. But there you go. Yeah, I don't know how long it lasted for, but he did start a sports agency, and I feel like he had like a big name client at one point, but I don't recall who it was. Who was the guy that had was it Ricky Williams? Was that his guy? Does that sound familiar, Swirl? I see you're nodding your head, but
yeah, it could be. Like, I remember Ricky Williams had like an atrocious contract. Like it wasn't good. He had like these incentives that were like just absurdly impossible to obtain. And I do remember like Master P playing like G League. Like, he played in like the NBA G League for a stint. But he was already an agent. Yeah, it might have been Ricky Williams. It was one of his clients.
Maybe somebody in chat can help us out. They're just telling me I'm not prepared. Yeah, I'm sorry, bootleg head chopper. I should have been prepared to talk about Master P for the first 10 minutes of the show. This, of course, is Squirrel Patrol. Squirrel, I read your article before the show as well. I never get it correct. Hitting the nuts, shooting for the nuts. The nuts.
I think it's hitting the nuts.
Yeah, something nut related for sure.
It's a double entendre, Dean.
Oh yeah, I know. I get it. You don't have to be a wordsmith. He also partook in the expert survey, so you dug in plenty as far as a slate today. Squirrel, how's Tuesday treating you?
Good, yeah. It's I like this overlap of like real NBA, but like still like we get like 4-game NBA slates, like 3-game NBA slates, and baseball as well. Like last night, little after midnight Eastern, like everything was concluding at once. It's kind of fun, if you're playing both sports. So busy day, but a lot to talk about.
Change in the NBA, right? Changing in the guard, like officially with no Steph, no LeBron, no KD. It is pretty wild. I feel like I saw like somebody on Twitter say like the last time that's happened, the last time we've had a second round of the NBA playoffs without at least one of those. I feel like it's been a long time, but yeah, changing of the guard for sure. Do you have any brief thoughts, Squirrel, as far as basketball? I assume you're playing some DFS as well, but obviously your team is well out of it. My team's well out of it. Chop's team well out of it. But just as a spectator, anything you want to throw out there as far as basketball?
Looking forward to LeBron starting his Wizards career. I think that's the way the path is going. Some question is he going to come back to the Lakers? I think he'll pull the Jordan rug, and we'll get some LeBron with DC next year.
What is the team he's most likely? I guess it's another conversation. Yeah, reunite with Kyle Kuzma. It seems likely he probably doesn't stay with LA. I don't know, and I guess maybe his son comes into play as well, and it could be again a Giannis Thanasis situation. Who knows? I mean, how cool would that be? Like, the Griffies played together, playing with your son. It's got to be amazing just to pull if you can kind of make that work. And maybe that'll dictate his decision. But I don't know. Is there odds out there? Just probably too soon to have odds as far as the most likely landing spot for LeBron. But have you thought about this at all, Scroll? I have not really put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah, I haven't put a ton of thought into it. I would really say like the Wizards. I think one of these sports books is going to come out with odds on this. It'll be like a super low minimum or a super low maximum bet. I don't really know the cap space situation enough to comment on it, and I don't think that like his priorities are not necessarily the priorities we would put onto him, if that makes sense. I think there's some chance he stays with the Lakers as well. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Like maybe he'd be willing to sign for the mid-level exception just to kind of make whatever work that he wants to make work. And I mean, what about LeBron and Wemby? I mean, I don't know who else. You got to get somebody else there, but like it is kind of it's fun to fantasy book that, I suppose. But we'll see. Stay tuned on that. You got a take on that, Chop, at all, or we just talk?
Which one, LeBron and Wemby? I would say.
How much fun would that be?
It's interesting. Yeah, they could definitely win a championship. I think. Oddly enough, Wemby's already. I think by going into next year, Wemby will be better than Anthony Davis is right now. You know what I mean? Like when next year starts, Wemby will be better than that. I know it's a tough one, man, but that guy's so incredibly unique. But LeBron will be. I think LeBron will go. We'll see what happens with the draft and his son this year. Like his son. No offense, LeBron and the James family. His son is probably not NBA worthy right now, but like if you would have said this 3 years ago, when this actually came up a few years ago, I was like, man, somebody's going to draft him in the later first round just to get LeBron.
Yeah.
Just to get LeBron. And now it's kind of like, man, how much do you really want to stretch for LeBron right now? Like he could help you, but I don't know that he's there's a lot going on there. So I just think wherever his son goes, if somebody takes a chance on his son and is willing to do that, that's where he'll go. I think that's his priorities now. I read a mock draft the other day.
Already? Yeah.
Yeah, just goofing around because I was curious. But the dude the 7'2" center for UConn, they won the national championship. He's pretty talented. And we're getting back to where 7-footers can play in the game again, right? Like, everything evolves, and eventually I think he'll shoot 3-pointers. But anyway, 7'2", he's an incredible rim protector, right? Incredible on defense. They mocked him to San Antonio with that second pick San Antonio has. Buddy, a 7'2" rim protector plus Wemby, that if I was a Spurs fan and I live in San Antonio, I'm not a Spurs fan. That would be exciting because that has championship written all that. How you could not score in the paint on those guys? I think it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, well, you just bomb away these days anyway, though, right? It's it's dunks and threes, so that's the entire game essentially. But
good thing for the Spurs, both of those guys can get out on the perimeter too, man. You got to shoot over those 7-footers. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Everything's interesting, Dean. But we got to do the baseball today. But I'm looking forward to the rest of the playoffs, the changing of the guard. Have to say that as much as I don't want to root for the Timberwolves, I love me some Anthony Edwards, man. I got to root for Anthony Edwards here. I think he's pretty awesome. Yeah, he's pretty awesome. And so I don't know if they can beat the Nuggets, but I think it'll be a very interesting series.
Yeah, it's worth checking out his press conference alongside Kat. I don't know if you watched any of that, but that was pretty fun as well. But yeah, that should be an awesome second round series between those two. We shall move on. We shall talk a little bit of baseball as well. But yeah, it's a big boy slate. A lot going on. Still 2 hours, essentially 2 hours of baseball conversation when you include crunch time. We got DerekCarty coming in later. Chief meteorologist Kevin Roth as well. I don't think, unless I'm just going to confirm now, but earlier in the day, there was really nothing weather-wise that looked especially dicey. So Roth will be holding it down. Of course, you got Keith Eyster. Eyster's Fleisters will be coming in about an hour or so, an hour plus. But yeah, Squirrel, big boy slate. Not a lot of great offensive spots, really. One clear-cut, like, best pitcher. I was looking to see is there any team total currently above 5? If there is, it's like just barely above 5, like scraping above 5. Roof is open in Arizona, but a little bit tougher matchup there for the Dodgers tonight. Of course, they have the Dodgers, but the Dodgers are taking on Montgomery. He's a good pitcher. The Braves are, big ballpark downgrade out there in Seattle, taking on Luis Castillo. Is a really good pitcher. The Astros, their bats got right in Mexico, but like everybody's bats get, even the Rockies scored a few runs in Mexico. But yeah, those 16.5 totals, 17.5 totals, that both games went under, by the way, just barely the first one. It was a sphincter clincher if you had the under for the first one, because I think there was like 5 or 6 runs scored in the last inning. But yeah, Squirrel, give me your screenshot, give me your overview as far as this today's big boy slates.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit of a bigger slate than we've had. We kind of don't pay that much attention to like the number of games on the slate, but we've got like more and more of these teams are doing like the 6:35 start that then like takes a couple more teams off the slate, and then we end up with these like 7, 8 game main slates. There's like 16 teams, and if you're picking like 2 teams to stack or 2 starting pitchers, you're picking 2 from 16, 2 from 14. Now we got like 2 out of 24. Because it's 12 full games on the slate. And that, I think that does make a little bit of a difference. And I think it makes me a little bit more willing to fade the chalk almost no matter what. And I think tonight we've got some pretty easily identifiable chalk I think Freddie Peralta is going to be the chalk at pitcher. I think Houston's going to be the chalk with the bats. And I think you got to kind of like close your eyes, like clench up and fade it, I think, for baseball. Wouldn't do that with basketball. It's a different game, but with this, 24 teams, I know like Houston looks good. I know Freddie Peralta looks good. Like nothing's been that reliable this season where I'm going to like go into a bunch of chalk on a 12-game slate.
Derek in chat is telling me Houston's at a 5.1 as far as team total today. So I guess we got, 5.1 versus whatever's left of Carlos Carrasco. Dodgers and D-backs both at 4.75. Roof up in there in the desert in Arizona. The Braves have a team total of 3.6, which is about as low as you're ever going to see the Braves as far as team totals. Again, bad ballpark, tough matchup versus Castillo. Of course, they can still get there because they have the Braves. Anybody else got Philly down to 4.5? That's our highest totals. Texas, the low 4s. Milwaukee, the low 4s. Just got their lineup a little bit ago. But even Minnesota is below 5, taking on whatever's left of Mike Soroka and that Chicago bullpen, locked in for 9. Yeah, runs are kind of still at a premium. I saw it was heating up in Baltimore yesterday. So maybe some spots are opening up, and we want the heat when you want the homers. Obviously, that helps out. But, Chop, your perspective as far as today's slate. We'll talk about Peralta in a second. I think it's 39%. Yeah, 39% ownership currently on DK. Well ahead of everybody else. The SP2 is a different conversation. If you're playing cash games, of course, you're playing Peralta. But it's an interesting fade, which we'll talk about in a second. But, Chop, what is your overview for this big slate?
Yeah, so we're in the territory now of with this many games. It's play whoever you want. It's just all it is, Dean. I don't even know why we're doing a show, really. You just push buttons, mash buttons. Producer Steve, bring up that little monkey mashing the buttons gif on Twitter, because that's all we're doing. We're just mashing buttons, Dean, today. 24 teams.
We should just play the gif on a loop for the next hour until crunch time comes in. Is that what you're suggesting?
Let's talk a little NBA. I know that people want to hear some NBA for the next hour. Why not? Who cares? Let's do
it. So look, I also want to know. I always ask, like, Chop, I know you're making a joke about the mashing of the buttons, and here comes producer Steve. Oh, there it is. That's an even better call. Chun-Li at the best kicks. I think it's Chun-Li versus Honda. Is that Honda who Chun-Li is facing? Am I kind of dating myself knowing those characters in Street Fighter? Nicely done, Producer Steve. Welcome back, Producer Steve, by the way. He went on a vacation. He's back. I know y'all missed him. Devin filled in spectacularly. But is that Steve giving himself applause, or is he giving Devin applause? I don't know how you interpret that. But yes, everybody did a great job. Honda, thank you, chat, is all over that as well. Okay, so Chop, you kind of threw me off not want to talk about baseball, but we're going to bounce back and forth for sure. According to Tim, Steve is tilting. Oh, is he tilting? He's back now. Steve was in really good spirits. It was nice to have Steve back. Nice to talk to Steve pre-show. But let's have this conversation about. Oh, this is what I was going to ask. I apologize. Finally took me a second to get there. Chop, what are you playing? I always want to know. Like, it's important as far as the advice you're giving. Your perspective. If you're playing one lineup only, like a single entry contest, that's kind of a different perspective, different conversation as opposed to if you're playing 150 lineups in the large field, $15. What is our plan of attack? What are you entering today as far as contests?
Yeah, it's a total button mash slate, so I'll go 150 on each side, Dean. Why not?
You're having fun. So you think it's a button mash slate, but
I don't. Most of the time, I don't really call it fun.
Well, it could be fun if the buttons match the right way for you. No?
You know what, Dean? It's weird, but I do need to use the RotoGrinders tool that looks up your gameplay, and all that stuff and tells you how you're doing in specific. But I'd like to look it up just to fortify this thought, but I'm almost positive. In fact, I don't even have to look it up. Like the button mash and stuff like this tonight, like I'm going to do, totally unsuccessful. Yeah. The success I've had this year has been just one lineup. The few times that I've said, you know what, let's just do one lineup. Don't want to mess around with all that other uploading and downloading projections and all that. Let's just do one lineup. And those have been the ones that have been the most successful. Otherwise, the button mashing nights haven't been so good. But I'm going to button mash, 150 on each side, 300 total lineups, Dean. How about that?
In just seconds, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups if you're using SimLabs. I don't know if you're aware of that, Chop. Like you're talking about saving some time and you're spending all this time, uploading and downloading.
SimLabs is the nuts for the NBA playoffs because we don't have most of the time, we don't have the late breaking news, which makes it very difficult in NBA. So the projections are there all day long. Again, granted, there's been some injuries here these last couple of days, but SimLabs is the absolute nuts for the NBA playoff. It's so good, and putting it against other things that I've built, it's given me the best lineups so far in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, and like they officially have like Embiid listed as questionable. Like spoiler alert, Embiid's playing tonight, just so you know. Philadelphia's still playing their games with the injury report. They've done it the entire season long, but he's gonna play. All right. What are you playing tonight, Squirrel? Are we button mashing as well? Is there a plan of attack?
Oh, yeah. So 150 lineups, both sites, both basketball and baseball. So going to be busy 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock time frame, or 6:20 to 7:07, I guess.
Yeah, you're definitely you're probably happy you're not on crunch time tonight. You're getting that extra window, the hour between all the game starts or whatever it is, 45 minutes, depending on which sport. Certainly matters. You were talking about not playing Peralta or just getting away from the ownership. 39%. You can give us a refresh. I'm not sure if it's changed or not. I think there's a bunch of options like as potential pivots. Some pretty good names there. I guess we should talk about why Peralta is the number one option before we talk about not playing him. Biggest K percent on the slate, 33.3% for Peralta. The Sierra's 2.8. Everything sort of checks out. He's been really good. The matchup against Tampa doesn't really scare us, I don't think. I know Tampa's getting a positive ballpark jump, but not really afraid of the Rays. If there's anything you want to add on Peralta, by all means. But then when you say you're going to fade him, like I'm assuming you're not going to have zero if you're running 150. You're going to be less than the field. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'll attempt to be less than the field. It's like on DraftKings. Like I'm not going to roster him at close to 40%. It'll be closer to like half of that. And I think I'll take some attention to make sure I'm not like pairing him with whatever I think the most chalkiest stack to have Peralta, likely Houston. I'll be careful of that kind of pairing of pitcher with chalky stack. I think there's a lot of arguments to be made for or against every pitcher on the board, but that means there's a bunch of guys that are in play. We can go right down this list, and a lot of these guys, look at all the guys that have bubbles and the write ups stuff like that, and even guys that don't, like Sean Manaea, Cole Reagan, I think Jose Barrios, Kenzie Gore. I think even if we a little bit lower, these are all guys that should absolutely be in play to pay off their price tag. So I think it's wide open.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Gore. Was it last time out he faced the Dodgers? He looked really, really good against the Dodgers. I know that's he's on your team. Tough task again, taking on Texas. Texas pretty tough team as well. But he's in my pool. He's in my pool of options. He's not going to be terribly popular either. Let me go ahead. By the way, tons of extreme umpires today. If you like yourself some extreme umpires, we got a bunch. I'll run them off. Extreme hitters umpire for Carrasco, for Assad, for Hunter Brown. Oh boy, that's not good for Hunter Brown. Chop. Hunter Brown's been bad. It's not been good. It's not been great for Hunter Brown this season. Extreme hitters umpire for him. Also an extreme hitters umpire for Sean Manaea. A lot of extreme pitchers umpires too. Extreme pitchers umpire for Alex Wood. Probably not going to save him. Ditto Tyler Anderson, who I believe he's been one of the luckiest pitchers in baseball this season. We'll talk about it. Spencer Turnbull, extreme pitchers umpire. John Gray, extreme pitchers umpire. He looks like a really appealing SB2, especially if you want to save some salary. Mitch Keller, which is the one I want to get into. Oh, man, he seems too expensive, but he's taking on the terrible Athletics extreme pitchers umpire and then extreme pitchers umpire for Mackenzie Gore. Do we care about this, Chop? I know there's always somebody in chat that I just figured I'd throw it out there now because there's always somebody asking, and there's just kind of a slew of them today. Some days you get only one or two, but of course there's more games as well. But do we care here, Chop, as far as the extremes when it comes to umpires? Is it like a tiebreaker for you?
If I'm building my one single lineup to put in my contest, I probably look at it and it probably matters to me. When I'm building this many lineups tonight, I could care less. I don't need to see a bunch of hitters up. I don't know. I'm gonna, like Squirrel was saying with the chalky players, it's on a slate this big. The odds that the chalk hits it's so far down. The odds that you can actually sit down and pick, the nuts tonight is thinking a lot.
Squirrel has a whole article about this.
Pretty thinking pretty highly of yourself. I don't know. Squirrel's article is more about game theory more than you think, Dean, if you would ever read it. But point being, I don't know. So no, I'm not really worried. I barely looked at the weather edge on the slate like today. And, if it's not super, super extreme, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not really worried about the umpire stuff. Not today, man. Not with this many teams and this many, spots for hitters and vice versa. Really good, solid pitching. So, yeah, I'm not worried about those peculiars when I'm doing 150 lineups. That's more for single entry stuff.
I did just go ahead and drop the Kevin Roth weather report in chat. Nothing really too dicey. As far as we can tell, green, yellow in Boston, straight yellow for the Mets. So maybe that's something that's worth monitoring. Of course, anything pops up, anything changes. Weather is, of course, fluid. And, Roth will be on top of that. He'll be telling you what to keep an eye on when he jumps on in about, 50 minutes or so. I wanted to see if there's anything popping from a weather edge perspective. We'll dig in if there's anything worth noting. But Squirrel, I guess I'll ask you as well. Do you care about all that extreme stuff I mentioned, or just what it's all baked in the projections anyway, as Blender would yell at me, basically. So who cares?
Yeah, I think it gets put into the total, like the game total, and then that gets put into the to the money line, and that gets put into the implied run totals, which get put into the player projections, which then affect the ownership. And it just goes on. It's probably all baked in there. So it's interesting to hear. Cleveland had a little bit of a higher implied run total than I thought they would. And if they've got a extreme hitters umpire, that makes some sense. So I don't pay too much attention to it, but it does maybe explain some things.
Never officially said what's up to chat. What's up, chat? Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. We appreciate all that. Just like Chop likes the button mash when making his lineups. Button mash when you're hitting the like button and hit. I don't know if there's no poll up today, but if there was a poll, you can button mash on that. We'll come up with a poll at some point. If you guys have any potential poll questions, by all means, throw them out there. Maybe producer Steve can surprise us with something off the board. Did take a peek at Weather Edge, slight bump as far as in San Diego. Pretty big sample, 107 games. We've seen an increase in homers at 16.7%, increase in runs at 5.6%. Nothing extreme. It's 61. Wind is blowing out 6 miles per hour, basically the dead center. Slight downgrade for homers and for the Angels, but really it looks pretty neutral in a massive sample, 370 games. Slight downgrade for the White Sox in Minnesota, 94 games, 5% hit in homers, 6% hit in runs. It is 66 degrees, winds blowing in 8 miles per hour, basically from dead center. So again, one of the themes on today's show is like there's really no amazing looking offenses. We'll talk about stacks in a second, but again, we only one team above 5. The current projection is Houston. Dodgers, tough matchup. Braves, tough matchup. But, we got to roster ourselves some hitters. We got to figure it out, but we'll get to it soon enough. Let's talk about those pivots, Squirrel. 26% projection is Logan Webb. Logan Webb, spectacular pitcher, ground ball guy, but like the K's are not amazing. This Boston team also not very good, but he's also a guy that can go 6 or 7. Right? He's coming in at 26%. Mitch Keller at 23%. Luis Castillo, picking on Atlanta. Nobody likes to pick on Atlanta. Well, the field might today at 21%. Ronaldo Lopez, speaking of Atlanta, 17% against Seattle. I believe that was like a 1-0 game last night. Max Fried had a no-hitter going into I guess he had a no-hitter, right? They took him out because of pitch count. I think he went 6 without giving up a hit. Who you bumping up here? Do you have a favorite amongst that group, amongst Webb, Keller, Castillo, Lopez? I think Keller's the one that's like, he's obviously getting bumped up because of the matchup more than anything, the ballpark as well. Do you have an official Keller stand? Because I'm trying not to play him right now, which might be the wrong decision. But, tell me what to do with Mitch Keller because I don't know what to do.
Yeah, you can actually just hover over my Mitch Keller right up there because he's the guy that I wrote up today. But, yeah, basically said I think that the pitchers have been unreliable so far this season, but the bad offenses have been pretty consistent. Oakland, kind of bad no matter how you dice it. I mean, maybe not, as atrocious as we thought they were going to be coming into the season. They're better than the White Sox, but that's just about the only team they've been better than. And they still, strike out a ton. So that, maybe increases Mitch Keller's upside. So I'll take the matchup. I'll side with the matchup there. Being in Oakland doesn't hurt. Like I like Logan Webb in a vacuum, maybe more than Mitch Keller here, but in Fenway they're not in a vacuum. They're in Fenway instead of being in Oakland. So I'll go with Mitch Keller. I don't know if we'll see that much ownership. I don't really know if he'll be the third highest owned pitcher. I think we're probably going to see like John Gray get a little more ownership, and it's probably deserved just because of that salary. It's like way too cheap. I think we'll see John Gray with some additional ownership. Similar thought with like Sean Manaea, Cole Reagans on DraftKings in particular. I think some of those guys are going to get bumped up the ownership ranks, and I think guys like Mitch Keller and Luis Castillo might get bumped down a little bit.
I actually agree with your assessment on Gray, but we still only have him like at 13%. I think he's going to be higher than that. And I also agree with your Reagan's thought, only 7% right now. I feel like a lot of DFS people he's kind of a darling of DFS people and like analytics people, obviously. He's not projecting well. I know he's taking on a Toronto team that is supposed to be good, but I'm not sure Toronto is that good. Some would say they're gutless at times. If you look at their the plate IQ on them, it's a really contact-heavy lineup, which is the one hit. Biggio and Schneider strike out a bunch, 35, 30% respectively. The power is gone in the back end, and like George Springer, 143 ISO. Does anybody want to take a guess on what Vlad's ISO is this season and last season versus lefties? I mean, I'm framing the question here, but Vladimir Guerrero, who hits only ground balls, basically, he should start hitting the ball in the air if he wants some home runs. His ISO, you want to take it anyway? I'll just throw it out there, but it's not good. It's not a good number. It's worse than Ernie Clement. It's worse than IKF. It's not good. His ISO is 67, which is pretty bad. And it's 146 at bats. And this is now me mushing Vladdy, and of course he's going to bang out 2 homers today now. But just figured I'd throw that out there. Just alarming. It's kind of alarming how bad. Where did the power go for Vlad? I know they touched on this last night in Crunch Time. Like, did he have his career year at 22? Is he ever going to be that guy again? I don't know. But he had the MLB The Show mush too, right? I don't know. Is that a mush? I think he was on the cover of the show. Maybe this year. Possibly this year. Jazz was on it once. Didn't work out for him either. That's the new Madden curse, I think. The MLB The Show curse. But yeah, Chop, who amongst this bunch is standing out for you? I assume you're going to have like pieces of all of them because you're running out, you're button mashing. You're going to hit every single button on purpose or accidentally. Your favorite amongst this next grouping behind Peralta. And your official Peralta take. Did we get your official Peralta take?
He's fine. I will probably be on par with the field, believe it or not, just based on the way, I'll set it up. I won't be underweight. I certainly won't be overweight. And so, I don't know. He's fine. He's expensive on DraftKings, and I don't hate the matchup. He's fine. He's getting the highest projection here from the bat. He's okay. He's solid. Oakland lineup is in, and it's as expected. So, yeah, you can play some Mitch Keller here, even though he doesn't really excite me either too much. So this next group of pitchers, are we going by ownership, Dean? Is that what we're going by?
However you want to go. If you want to go well over the field, well under the field, however you want to interpret it, or just whatever you're rostering. Is there somebody you're taking a stand on this group? The Ronaldo Lopez thing at 9.5, I just have a hard time getting there. I know he's been better. That just seems a little bit of an overprice.
I agree.
Seattle offense doesn't really scare me. But
I've been on Lopez, and I agree with that one. I agree with that take. And I usually love me some Luis Castillo. Don't love to pick on the Braves, so I'll be probably underweight on him. Probably Cole Reagans stands out to me with his ownership. And you just talked about the matchup. Some of those guys in Toronto are just not hitting the ball very well right now. I know he's got the arm talent. So I know he's been a little bit inconsistent this year. I still believe in that talent. So Cole Reagans, I'll be way overweight on Cole Reagans. I'll probably be like Logan Webb is just kind of like goes out there and gives you good performances every single outing, it seems like, but nothing's ever, a slate breaker. Like you just plug him in, and he's a neutral
17% Ks. It's just not. Yeah,
he doesn't hurt you. He doesn't hurt you ever because he's so good and solid at run prevention and getting and eating up innings. But the Ks aren't there, so the upside isn't there. So I don't know that I'll be on par with the field. That's probably an underweight. I don't know. Yeah, this is not an exciting group. Jose Barrios, maybe there's some upside there. I don't love the matchup. Much better Kansas City offense this year than has been in the years past. One of the best hitters in baseball you got to face, with Bobby Witt. So that's not easy. But Barrios has upside, man, if he gets it rolling. So I'll be over the weight on that number right there. So in that next group, Peralta on par, Reagans over, Webb on par just because it doesn't hurt you. And Castillo and Lopez under, Barrios over, along those lines.
The Reagans thing, he's reverse splits lefty, and he's facing eight righties. Kevin Biggio is the only lefty he's facing left on left. As far as the Ks dating back to last season, 30.1% striking out righties. This season specifically, striking out 29.1% righties. I know he was BABIP to death in that game against, I think it was Baltimore. His last time out, he was pitching in the rain for most of the game, or at least a chunk of the game. He's had a few hiccups here and there. Maybe I'm making excuses for him. But, the ISO's been pretty good. I think BABIP's what's really got him. I'm pulling it up on the season, but I think it's at least 400 or so. Let's see. 381. He's got a 381 BABIP. So some unlucky stuff there for Reagans. All right. 7 or 8% just seems a little bit low. I see Alex in chat. Alex, always respect his opinion. Talking about you guys don't like 6 Ks in 6 innings. I guess that's for Lopez. I did pull up his line as well. His betting line is 6.5, but the juice is on the under. We're projecting about 6 Ks, 6.5, give or take. Maybe I'm just kind of like I can't get over what we originally thought of him. If he just changed the name or covered the name up, I'd like this guy more. That's possibly what it is. I have a little bit of a negative bias toward Lopez. We used to pick on him like many years ago, right? We used to stack against him. You got an official Lopez take there to Squirrel. Just also just the price. It's like it's not just that like he's got to be good. He's expensive. He's right there basically with everybody else at the top.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to get your mind around Ronaldo Lopez. Actually, I was listening to Blender and Carty talk about it this morning on the RotoGrinders today. That he's actually had a lot of things like go in his favor. The like league hitting less home runs is kind of good for him, and it's made him a better pitcher. Just because he's a fly ball pitcher. But yeah, he's made some adjustments. He's actually like improved as a pitcher. And he's pitching in a great ballpark tonight for pitchers. It may not even get better for pitchers than pitching in Seattle. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be this highly owned because I think a lot of people think that same way that we're describing. Like, I can't play Ronaldo Lopez and 9,500 on a slate with this much pitching is crazy for Ronaldo Lopez. I'll probably be over that like 18% mark. That's his projection. We're not seeing the percent owned. Yeah, I don't know. I it's hard, but I'll probably be right there with the field or over the field. Just because I don't think he'll see that much ownership. And he probably should. Like he's pitching in a good park. He's got the credentials now. You just got to erase the name.
Yeah, and that's probably on me. It's probably he's definitely been worthy. He's been pitching really, really well. The Seattle lineup is not that daunting, right? And J-Rod's kind of scuffled out the gate this year, but I still think he's really good, obviously. But it's not a lineup we're necessarily afraid of. I'm pulling it up on Plate IQ. I just kind of bounce back and forth as far as current season and last season, and you get a much different picture for Seattle. Speaking of ISO, J-Rod this year versus righties, isolated power is 60. That's really, really bad. That's pretty terrible. That is the worst on his team? Yes, that is the worst on his team. And that's I forgot Dylan Moore existed. Dylan Moore's got a 32. And that is more realistic. I don't believe in the power or lack thereof. I believe in the lack thereof power of Dylan Moore. But I'm just mushing everybody today. But yeah, J-Rod's been, and I think historically, I don't know if it's a thing or not, but historically he's always had slow starts in his short career. He's kind of been rough the first month, and he'll figure it out. I trust the talent's going to get there. But collectively, that lineup is not especially scary. By the way, you see on the scroll, I wanted to mention for the people, you also see, if you're watching the screen, all the fabulous tools that producer Steve is showing off, the lineup HQ. You can have that at your own leisure. You can. Some people ask, like I said, can you zoom in on the pitcher's umpire? Can you zoom in on what's the ownership? Well, you know what? You can have all this. And how would you go about getting it? Well, you could pay for it. Certainly you can do that. That is the easiest way to do it. NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, MLB, that's what we're doing right now. You can get it all. If you want to commit to 6 months, you get a savings of $250. That's $469.99. Links are in the description. If you only want to commit to a month, you can get $40 off for a month for a limited time. And if you only want to commit to 3 days, just 3 days, not a big fan of commitment, you can get it for $19.99. Or you can get it for free. How do you get it for free? You go into the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord, go into the live stream chat channel. Producer Devin just dropped a tournament there. It's a DraftKings tournament. It's a standard, like he made his own tournament. It's going to have a standard payout, $10 to jump in there. And if you happen to win that tournament, you get added value. You'll also get yourself a week free of RG Premium. Just when you win it, either let me know, let somebody know through Discord, through Twitter, and we'll hook you up. We'll juice you up with a week free of RG Premium. What do you guys do?
If you have our logo as your profile picture and you come in first place, you'll get 2 weeks of premium.
Well, there you go. How about that? The powers that be, by the way, finally said, you know what, Dean, maybe you should rock the RG. I went for the longest time. I got away with just having the the Gray Sports Almanac logo.
Come on, Dean. You're not a team player. You got to be a team player.
It's part of the brand. But somebody finally said to tap me on the shoulder and said, maybe you should put the RotoGrinders logo on there. And,
wait a minute. A couple things to address here, Dean. Number one, so the whole RG logo thing wasn't in your contract before? Like,
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I did not read the fine print. I'm not sure, but
the contract. You kind of got to go by the contract. Whatever's in the fine print, you kind of got to do, Dean, or else they could stop paying you. They could fire you for it. Now, number two, there are actual people who come on here this free show and they want the producer to zoom in on the stat they want to see. Oh my goodness. I bet these are the same people who get food delivered and then call the restaurant and say, hey, you didn't give me my hamburger when they really did, just to get a free meal the next time. It's just terrible, people.
That's
come on, people. Pony up the money. Or don't come in here looking for the free goods, man.
You have a plethora of restaurant experience, myself as well. Like, I think you work back a house, right? But you probably experience those kind of people sometimes, right? You have any stories offhand you can kind of throw out to the people?
No, not that I can really remember, but I mean, so, obviously it's always been a thing, but now with the way the food is delivered, and I just go on the any feed, like a Twitter feed or wherever, you'll see like a tons of videos of idiots who, or just pull up the next door neighbor app. Like, you'll see a bunch of people crying about.
I've heard bad things about that. I never did it. I'm afraid that I've heard from friends saying.
Yeah, that's the thing about it now, Dean. Is I'm afraid people always trying to get something for free these days. It's pretty sad state of affairs out there.
I did see what you're referencing though, like where the actual like DoorDasher showed back up to the place where they delivered the food, and they said, "Yeah, you saw me an hour ago. I gave you a burger or whatever." And then you told the app I didn't give it to you, but like I clearly did, and you clearly ate your burger, and it's right there. There's the remnants, and they videotape it, and this is what you're referencing, I suppose. And they clearly had it, like they got called out on it.
There's lots of those out there. You gotta be careful with the food delivery, Dean, because also you'll see the stuff pop up on your timeline about the, people get their meals from the food delivery, and the guy's already kind of like peeled the tape back and eating some fries. Now, I don't want any part of that, man. So I try not to get my food delivered.
It's a couple loose fries, though. They're sort of up for grabs.
I see. I have a friend who said he got his pizza one night. 2 pieces were missing. Like the dude he ate 2 pieces of his pizza. Crazy.
That's bold. One, it's like kind of obvious. 2, you can sort of like kind of like Frankenstein it together. I think maybe. I don't know. That's amazing. That is incredible. Scroll, you have any thoughts on this diversion of a conversation? And you a DoorDash type?
Yeah, we do Uber Eats a lot. DoorDash, whatever's out there. There are times when I have Uber Eats from multiple restaurants on the same night. People can't agree, and there's only 3 people in my household. So yeah, get a lot of like food delivery. It seems like it is wrong often. Like I will order stuff and, I'll order like 3 burgers, 3 drinks, and I'll get like a salad and a coffee or something like that. And I'm like, this isn't even close. So, have that experience a lot. And then, I'll, complain to the company that, we'll refund your delivery fee. I didn't get even close to what I ordered. But yeah, I don't know. It's a new world out there. So these are the things we gotta have to navigate and deal with.
I got like a shrimp pizza once, and like I think I ordered like a mushroom pizza, and I got a shrimp pizza, and it's like, whatever. If you order mushroom and you get pepperoni, you get sauce, but the shrimp is such an outlier. It's like, what am I doing with this? And I think it had no sauce, and they didn't refund the whole thing. They refund like maybe 18 of the $25, whatever it was. We apparently have some DoorDashers in chat. I would say the worst is probably the people that take their tip back. Like I think you can give a tip, and at the end you can modify your tip after it's been delivered. That's got to be the worst kind of person.
I didn't know that was possible, but I might start doing that now that I know that you can do that.
Well, I mean, you never really know whose fault it is the other part of it. Like it could have been the restaurant's fault, and it's not necessarily the person delivering it. But apparently Bootleg Hedgehopper is saying he does the DoorDash for betting funds. And I always felt like you take care of the people. If you don't want a tip, we live in a society, then don't order DoorDash. Go pick it up yourself, right? Speaking of contracts, it's an unwritten contract. This is what we do. This is how our society is laid out. It's a tipping society. That's what we signed up for, metaphorically. By the way, no Max Muncy today for the Dodgers. That's kind of a bummer because he was one of my favorite sneaky plays. Because both the Dodgers and the Phillies, we'll talk stacks obviously in a second, but both the Dodgers and the Phillies are taking on left-handed pitchers that are reverse splitsy. So kind of like, you know how Squirrel, like it says in the expert survey, what's like the one way you're going to beat your opponents? And like, you can always say so much in like a paragraph. But one of my big thoughts today was the lefty power guys like Schwarber and Harper and Muncy and Ohtani. That's not groundbreaking, but hand builders especially are afraid. They don't like left on left, but they're both facing reverse splits or neutral, however you want, neutral or reverse splitsy lefties. And I thought that was one of my edges today, but no Muncy today. Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, Hernandez, Pajas, Rojas, and Chris Taylor, who's in the lineup to strike out multiple times, probably. All right. What else? We should give the summary as far as pitchers, but I know we kind of threw out a bunch of names, Squirrel. Is there anybody you're taking a stand on? Like, there's a lot of guys. I had a hard time ranking my 8 favorites because there's more than 8 that I'm at least interested in, but also it's kind of congested as well. I'll pull up our consensus stuff. I think you partook in this as well, if I can get it on the fly. Well, let me throw it to you, and then I'll pull it up and I'll give people the consensus when it comes to our pitchers. But who else did we not talk about that we should at least give a head nod to?
So I think John Gray is striking me as particularly underpriced. I was actually about to write him up as like a FanDuel specific play. I was going to write him up on one of the sites, and then I'm like, oh, he's even more underpriced on like on DraftKings relative to FanDuel. You see some interesting things like Cole Reagans is like really affordable on DraftKings and not so much on FanDuel. So he's kind of a pitcher that I think is going to fly under the radar, but I think he's going to fly under the radar for me on DraftKings, not on FanDuel. Like he's just like, I think he's like the 5th or 6th most expensive pitcher on FanDuel, and he's 7th and like 13th most expensive on DraftKings. So I'm going to take advantage of those little like, intricacies, differences between the sites. But yeah, it is wide open. I think ownership is going to concentrate, as it always does, probably around Freddie Peralta, maybe around Peralta and Webb, maybe even, Peralta, Webb, and Mitch Keller. So I might be under the field on like Peralta and Webb, kind of at the field on Mitch Keller, and just try to be over the field on, just going down the line. Probably going to skip Yu Darvish coming back, I think, from injury. But particularly like the underpriced guys, I think Mackenzie Gore, John Gray, Sean Manaea, and Cole Reagans on DraftKings.
So consensus-wise, this is myself, Squirrel, STL Cards wrote his Cover the Bases article, Kirkwood as well. Peralta won across the board. And then there's kind of a gap, right? Luis Castillo, Logan Webb, John Gray, Reagans. This is DK for what it's worth. Then Mitch Keller. Lopez, and Mitch Keller would be higher. I did not rank Keller, which is probably a mistake. I might change that. He should probably be like 7 or 8 for me at least. Lopez, Manaea, Turnbull. Turnbull got a little bit of love, and I see Alex asking about Turnbull as well. And I know that was the squad ride pick today. Stevie over 5.5 Ks for Turnbull. Shout out to Bobby who picked correctly. He chose wisely yesterday. We did get the over for the Dodgers and Arizona, so Bobby's back making picks for the squad. After Barrios is Mackenzie Gore. I was the only one to rank Mackenzie Gore. I'm a believer, Squirrel. I'm a believer. I don't really love the matchup, but I think the stuff is legit. Is he in your pool, Gore, Squirrel?
Yeah, Mackenzie Gore absolutely will be. I tend to do the consensus rankings for baseball as kind of a cash and not really even looking at value that much, just because like with value, it would you would end up with a bunch of 2,000 price position players on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do. I mean, I think Mackenzie Gore is definitely in the pool for me. Spencer Turnbull is definitely in the pool as well, but like way more, I think, on FanDuel than on DraftKings. Like on DraftKings, Turnbull's the 3rd most expensive pitcher. On DraftKings, he's the 6th most expensive. And so I think he's going to see low ownership. But I prefer to go spend down for low ownership, if that makes sense, than to spend up for low ownership. Just because you can't get away with the price tag, right? Like you can talk yourself into all kinds of like matchup based things, or the guy's talent is starting to come around. Like with Mackenzie Gore, it's harder to argue with the price tag because that just is what it is. And I think Turnbull is a little bit pricey for the matchup, and for the projection tonight. He'll be in the pool, but he's not a guy like I'm dying to be over the field.
Chop, anything else? Final words? Anybody we didn't talk about? Did you want to give anything as far as Turnbull? Anybody you want to hammer home as far as your favorite pitcher when it comes to ownership, when it comes to price, when it comes to, all things considered? I'm going to give it one more refresh to see if we get anything new when it comes to the ownership of the pitchers, but it gets pretty well congested. I'm going to be over on Reagans, and I think the field's going to get a little bit higher than our current projection as well. As myself and Squirrel talked about earlier. But Montgomery, 0.5%. That's just sort of interesting. I don't think I'm going to play him. I don't play enough lineups, but if you want to be ambitious, by all means, have at it. But yeah, Chop, who have we not yet talked about? Who do you want to feature before we move on and talk about some hitters, some stacks?
I would say now this name's gotten thrown out a couple times in chat, and I was going to get to it, as soon as that last segment was done. But Simeon Woods Richardson, I think, is okay just because of the matchup. There's upside baked into his matchup if it goes right, so he's good. Another name in chat, Javier Assad. He's like a very, very, very poor man's Logan Webb. Like he's there, he's okay, doesn't do anything spectacular. It is a decent enough matchup against the Mets, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's what I think about Assad. But Simeon Woods Richardson's the guy I'll probably be overweight on compared to the field that we didn't talk about. Otherwise, I'll throw this name out here, Dean.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier. Terrible year for Hunter Brown. I still think, if he throws strikes, he'll have a great DFS game. Will he get back to throwing strikes? Maybe. I don't think Cleveland is all that daunting of an offense. They do make contact a lot, but he's got some really good stuff. He just got to throw strikes. He's cheap enough, and there'll be no ownership tonight. So if you want to take that chance, but on this kind of a slate, I don't know, you can take some chances and to try to hit those the big prizes.
So I agree that Hunter Brown's is better than what he's shown. Like he kind of has to be, right? It's just almost impossible not to be. But a matchup versus Cleveland, a super contact heavy team with an extreme hitters umpire, I just don't see the upside. That's sort of my analysis on it. I think he's going to get there one day, but I'll check back in 5 days. I'll see who's playing against in 5 days. Scroll, you got a thought on Brown?
Yeah, he's not really in my player pool, and I think you just illuminated the reasons why very well. Cleveland, not an offense that I like to pick on with pitchers. They don't strike out a lot, and they have some talent. The umpire situation doesn't make it any better. I agree. There's so many options tonight. There'll be probably a Hunter Brown night going forward, but I don't think tonight's the night.
The first 6 hitters tonight for Cleveland when facing righties this year, as far as striking out, 9%, 16.5%, 9%, 9%, 16%, 19%. Like then you have a couple outliers, extreme outliers like Bo Naylor at 34, Florial at 42%. But you're going to see those guys twice if you're lucky. Rococo is 15% at the bottom, but I just think there's too many other options. Personally, I can't do it. Our guy Kirkwood in chat is saying Reagan's. Reagan's is the nuts. I like Reagan's a good bit as my SB2, but we shall move on and talk about our stacks, favorite stacks of the night. Chop, I'll let you open this up. I know I got squirrels right here. I did think it was really interesting that, there are 24 teams tonight or 26, 12 games or 13. Either way, a lot of teams, but only 6 teams. Chop, we are tasked with ranking 5 teams, your favorite 5 teams as far as stacks. Consensus-wise, we have 6. So it's really congested. Like we're all in the same teams is the point for our top 5. I'm curious where you are at, Chop, as far as your top 5. Give or take. Yeah.
Top 5 stacks, Dean. We're not doing the stack game.
Well, if you could reach out if you wanted to make a board. I just thought it would be too much.
We're not doing the board. What's this? What are we doing the show for then? If we don't have a board.
Here's the thing, Chop. Guess what? We are running the show back tomorrow. We will do the board tomorrow. And if you want to take the lead, you can come up. You can do the rankings as far as you want to rank this your favorite X. I don't know what you want to rank.
The board needs to be a staple of the show.
Yeah,
like it has to be. Even if nobody wants to come up with an original board, which is fine. Like I'll do a board tomorrow. But if nobody has time to do, then there ought to be a standard board, like just a go-to board, like a standard guy, man. That's got to be a staple of the show. The people love it. We got to do the board.
I also want to throw something else out, Chop, since you're talking about it. If you tweet me or whatever, or if you put it in chat, however you communicate it with an idea, like I think we should power rank X, and I use that. If I use that, I say, you know what, that is a good idea. Oh, here you go. Producer Steve's got a board in the fly. How about that? We don't have our actual categories.
Perfect. But no, that's good. It's standard stuff right there. I'm good with that, Dean.
So if you give me an idea, we should power rank best board games or whatever. I don't know, just throw it. And if we use that, I'll get you a week free of RG Premium. How about that? There you go. If I choose that, if we make it work one of these days, we do this for six months for baseball. So there's lots of board opportunities. So Chop, all right, here's the board. Where do you want producer Steve to go for you?
The board with the letter grades, I think that reminds me of the NFL draft, which just took place, because everybody gets a letter grade for the draft. Can we discuss the draft with the rest of the minutes of the show? The people would like that. I think the people would like that.
Do you have any thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons? They traded for a quarterback.
Oh man, do I have some thoughts?
They gave him a bunch of money.
What a bunch of idiots, man.
Nobody's discussed this.
I mean, that was a terrible pick. I mean, yeah, that's just terrible. Like, maybe the guy becomes an all-pro. That's good for him, but you probably could have got him later in the draft and got some more picks and everything else anyway. But, yeah, that was just an awful pick.
It's a good thing he's not 24 when the season – oh, wait, he's 24 in his rookie season. That's also probably not great. But continue, Chop.
Yeah, it's just not there's a certain point where you kind of like – you can still get a guy. This just happens not just with – but Penix is just like – in your face, man. You can still get him down the road, trade out there and at least accumulate some picks and then get him later. Or better yet, maybe you shouldn't have signed Kirk Cousins if you thought you might like Penix a few months ago. Like he's always been a guy who was going to come out and be a quarterback in the draft this year. Like, there's just a lot wrong with what they did here, but Dean, what I want to talk about real quick is Howie Roseman, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm so sick of everybody. I'm so sick of everybody slurping him off, Dean, because he has this. All he does is just aggregate all the draft mock drafts from everybody out there. So of course, this particular, we're going to take the guy who's highest on everybody's board. Of course, it's going to look good at the end. All you did was aggregate everybody's drafts. That's grading you right now. So of course you're going to look good in there.
He's the 18th best draftologist. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
He's terrible, man. Howie Roseman's just awful. I hate the way everybody slurps him up. I do appreciate the trading down of picks and accumulating more picks and situation. But the actual players he takes, come on, everybody needs to get off his No,
I watched the movie. No
copyright infringement to Squirrel, but get off his nuts. Come on, man.
I didn't watch the draft, but I watched the movie Draft Day in honor of the draft, and that was something. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. They applaud Commissioner Roger Goodell. Might be the most ridiculous thing that happens in the movie amongst a plethora of ridiculous things. But it was kind of fun. I was fine with it. I know a lot of people like to hate that movie, but it was kind of fun. It's ridiculous though. Have you guys seen Draft Day by chance? Cleveland Browns?
Of course.
Yeah. All right. Way to add to the conversation, Job. How about your favorite stuff? You asked for the board. Producer Steve throws the board up, and it's just sitting there for the last 7 minutes. It's all lonely doing nothing because you went on a 7-minute diatribe about the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, what am I? You're supposed to give me a team, and then I got to rank it.
Okay.
That's how I don't know if you're familiar with how the board game works here, Dean, but you throw out some teams and me and Squirrel put them in categories.
All right. Well, that was kind of the point I was making. I don't know if we have time to rank all 24 or 26 teams. But so that's why I was asking, who do you have at the top of the board? I'll tell you this. Myself, Squirrel.
Just throw some damn names out there. We'll rank them real fast. We don't have to go into a diatribe about them.
Well, we also got to get some knockers from the people. They got to hit the like button to get enough knockers out of you. Myself, Squirrel, Kirkwood, and the Cards, our consensus top stacks. Houston, your Astros, Chop. Houston, Philadelphia, the Dodgers, Arizona, Minnesota, and the one outlier, San Francisco. STL Cards picked the San Francisco Giants. Everyone else had the same 5 teams. So, yeah, let's go with Houston. Chopped, is Houston at the top of your board as well?
Typically, Dean, I would say no. But today is a special day. I'm going to put them at the top of the board because, well, they finally did something with Abreu, and they sent him off, to do whatever he's going to do out there in Florida. I don't know, but he's not there right now. And they brought up Loperfido. So, I'm impressed. I didn't think they would do it this quickly. So let's see if he brings any kind of enthusiasm to the offense. I think it certainly can help. I wish they would have put him at first base instead of left field. I don't know. I guess that's where he's playing left field tonight. But, so I think because they made some moves and they were proactive, I'm going to put him at the top just because I like that.
Low Profito, by the way, 2K on FanDuel, not available on DK.
Yeah, that's 2K on FanDuel. He's got some big-time upside for 2K for sure, Dean. He's one of their better prospects hitting in the system. He strikes out a lot, but he also hit like 13 homers in 25 games this year. He's on a hot streak coming into the league, so we'll see if he can figure it out quickly.
Squirrel, you good with Houston in the top tier?
I would have put them at C.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, in the middle, basically.
Just down on Houston. They're coming off the elevation game, right? Like the Mexico City. We used to say that with Coors, like teams can't hit the curveball or whatever. Yet the first game after they play in Coors. I imagine it's even worse in coming back from Mexico City. I just think they've got to get a good implied run total. Their offensive statistics now look great after playing a game in 5,000-foot elevation for 2 games with a 9 implied run total. I think maybe putting them at B. And it's not like I think that they're going to get shut down tonight or anything like that. I just think that they're going to be highly owned and don't really have that, good a chance of being the best team on them.
I got the cheat sheet here, Squirrel, for what your thoughts are, unless they've changed. They do change sometimes, myself included. You have Dodgers, Arizona, 1-2, then Minnesota. So would you put, I'm assuming you have Dodgers and Arizona in the top tier?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, roof is open. I know the Dodgers lineup, they're without Muncy, Jordan Montgomery, pretty good pitcher. Landon Knack, I don't think he's expected to be a heck of a pitcher there for the Dodgers. We got Peterson now in the lineup for lefty on right. Little bit of a revenge game for Jock Peterson. Corbin Carroll hitting eighth for a righty. That's just wild. It's been a terrible season for him. I'm not privy to the medicals, but my guess would be if you look at the, baseball savant stuff, the advanced stuff, his shoulder's probably still bothering him. Like the power has just not been there. It's been a rough season. Corbin Carroll, if he plays season-long baseball, was like a first rounder, second rounder, and he's batting 8th tonight versus right-hander Landon Knack behind Gabriel Moreno, which is just pretty wild. We probably can only do like the top half, right? The teams are really interested in. So, Chop, is there like a team that's sort of off the board that might not be in the top? Like, we talk about Houston, Philadelphia, the Dodgers. Philly we haven't ranked just yet, but like Minnesota. Let's knock those out, and then maybe a couple like off the board teams. Where do you have Philly and Minnesota, Chop?
I would put Philly in the B category. Tyler Anderson doesn't scare me, but a lot of the heart of the power of Philly is left-handed. So those first couple of at-bats are going to be lefty on lefty. So they fall down to the B for me. Minnesota? Yeah, man, Soroka's rough this year, man. He's been rough since the injury. So I'll put them in B category too. Soroka. And what else you got? Come on, we can whip through them, dude. We ain't got to, like I said, sit there and you're on mute, brother.
You go with those rankings, Squirrel?
Yeah, I'd say either A or B, but I think we can put them there in the B category.
Yeah, we got the Crunch Time crew coming in about 10 minutes or so. So I don't know how much time we have to knock every single one of these out.
We'll never have enough time to knock it out. If you keep saying, I don't know how much time we'll have to knock every 2 minutes, you're saying the same stuff. Just name off teams, and Squirrel gives a letter grade. I give a letter grade, a quick one sentence, and boom, we're rolling, man. Easy. Baby.
I also want to mention, I was talking about the contest we have going on in Discord. Jump in there. It's $10. If you win it, you get yourself a week free of RG Premium, all the bells, all the whistles, all the sports. And the one thing you cannot put a price on is you get a shout out on this show when you win. So last week's winner was Tin Scarecrow Man. So shout out to Tin Scarecrow Man, who took down the tournament last week. Again, it's a standard DraftKings tournament, just the added value of getting yourself a week free of RG Premium. Go to RotoGrinders.com/Discord, live stream chat channel. Maybe I'll jump in there as well. And if I win it, whoever finishes second would go ahead and take that down. But okay, I see Steve is just throwing teams on the board, which is a fun way to do it too. Scroll, do we like Chicago and the B tier? Because I don't think I do. I would move them down a little bit. Oh, you know what it is? Steve is a Mets fan, and he's doing a reverse mush. That's what's happening here.
I would put like Chicago and Tampa Bay, I think, in the F.
In the F? Wow. Yeah. Okay. What about leverage, though, Squirrel?
What was that?
What about leverage? I thought leverage was a thing against Freddie.
No, I mean, I think that, there's some teams that I just don't envision getting there. Somebody's got to be at the F. So, we can maybe do them in groups. Hey, Oakland, Chicago, the Cubs. Toronto and Boston teams in the F and D category.
All right. Now we're just firing them off. Producer Steve, you're going to do his best to keep up with them. Chop, I'm gonna throw some teams your way.
Yeah.
The Angels. Where do you want the Angels?
That's a C. I think C is a pretty proper place for them, right in the middle there.
Padres versus Nick Martinez.
A little higher on the Padres. I think they got a little pop in that offense, and I'm not super concerned about Nick Martinez. That'd be a B.
I think one of the more interesting ones is the Braves. Braves 3.6 total. Bad ballpark, tough matchup versus Castillo. Chop, where do you have Atlanta?
I'm not really. Yeah, it's a tough one, man. Let's put them in they're in B right now, so let's keep them in B. I'll keep them in B.
By the way, breaking news: Mike Trout to undergo knee surgery.
What? Goodness gracious.
He's so. Okay, Spencer Turnbull. He's got to move up the board, right? I assume he's not playing baseball tonight. Mike Trout, that is.
Only good hitter. I think that matters. And so going back to Atlanta, I'd probably bump him down one. I don't want to, that's a little too much. But yeah, that moves Turnbull up. That helps him quite a bit. That was their best hitter and one of the only real big time major league hitters they got.
Joe Adele, Taylor. Well, we don't know the official lineup, but it's gonna be one more guy added to it. And they also are without Rendon. Not that Rendon's good these days, but he's always been injured. Angels move them down. We have in the middle. Angels just throw them in the. What's lower than F? Is there anything lower than F? We can put the Angels.
Dean, I think we need to. I like bumping them down to D. And as Chad has opened our eyes to, the Braves are recently gutless. So let's move them. Let's move them down. They are recently gutless. So that matters, Dean. It matters. We need some of those guys to get hot and for them to not be so gutless.
The A's. So Squirrel, as far as Chops ranks, is there anything you take umbrage with? Anything you would move? The A's aren't completely nuts as like a mini, in my opinion, especially if Keller's going to get some ownership. And I'm not really a Keller believer. It's just the A's are terrible. They're cheap though. They're cheap and terrible. They help you get other stuff. I don't know. Do you have a thought on the A's or anybody you want to move on the board that the Chop has up there?
Not really. I agree with moving the Braves down to C. I mean, they're in the best pitchers park in baseball, and they're the most expensive stack on the board. So, obviously there's talent there, speed, power. It's not impossible they get there, but they're facing a good pitcher, and I think it's the ballpark that really does it for me. So I agree moving them down to C. Angels, I think you got to move them down to D. No Mike Trout. I'd keep the White Sox. White Sox and A's, at an F grade there. And I like the Padres at a B.
So I think the Reds are pretty interesting. The Reds have some power. They have some speed. And Darvish, 37 years old. I don't think he had a rehab start. Not sure how many balls he's going to throw today, but historically, it gets stolen on a ton. I'm pretty sure the Reds are still the top team in baseball as far as stealing bases. Darvish last year, 17 stolen bases allowed in 130 innings, 14 previously, 15 previous to that. He's had some years where he's given up 20-plus stolen bases. He's given up 2 stolen bases so far this year in 23 innings. Will Benson feels like a good jack-in-a-bag candidate tonight. De La Cruz as well. If they get on, they're going to try to rattle Darvish. I think Cincinnati is one of the more – of course, if they were at home, we'll be playing a ton of Cincinnati. Just the ballpark. It changes things, but not that much. Squirrel, you got to take as far as the Reds, because I think the Reds are – if I had a sneaky stack, it's the Reds for me tonight.
Yeah, actually, I think it's a good call. They're leading the majors in stolen bases by a good bit. Washington's somewhat behind them, I think, in a distant second. But I think I was writing yesterday, I think they've got almost twice as many steals as the team in 6th place, which I think was the Angels. And those are hidden points. You can see a team with at a low implied run total, and you think, I'm not going to play the team. Well, the Reds can pile up some fantasy points without even scoring runs. Nationals. getting plopped in D there. I'd move them up a little bit. I think there's like leverage against John Gray. They were getting a big ballpark upgrade as the road team heading in the Texas Stadium.
Is that an upgrade? I feel like Washington's a good hitter's park. Kind of a lateral move.
I think like Texas is one of the best ones in the majors. Rangers, I might even put up as an A, actually. I bet Rangers are a interesting situation. I think they're the prototypical with Mackenzie Gore, like play Mackenzie Gore or stack against him. Like I put Adolis Garcia, his numbers against left-handed pitching at home his entire career are like off the charts. Outstanding. So he's a good bet for a home run tonight. Like both the Nationals and the Rangers in that game.
How good is CJ Abrams, by the way? You must be excited about CJ Abrams as a Washington fan. The speed and the power is coming in now. He was the key piece in the Soto trade several years ago, obviously. He looks legit. Like every team, there's so many good young shortstops now in baseball, but he's right there. He's in that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you mentioned Yu Darvish being easy to steal on. I think John Gray gives up some steals as well. Like I was looking at some steals per inning pitch numbers earlier today, and so CJ Abrams, good bet for a steal tonight.
Let's see. I'm pulling it up on the fly. Yeah, Gray, 3 stolen bases allowed today this year in 24 innings, 12 last year in 157, 15 in the previous season. Yeah, Abrams, he's kind of got the green light whenever he's on base. Do we have enough likes? Hit that like button. So, subscribe, turn on those notifications, do all that. According to producer Steve, I love that Steve is the producer. Like he types in chat, Yu Darvish is watched, and he's like, you know what? I need people on the screen to see that too. Let them know that Darvish, he's 37. It's been a long career for Darvish, but some homer calls. Let's give the people some homer calls for sure. Apparently, according to the chat, roof is closed in Texas. It is open in Arizona, for the record, and it's not cool out there. I think it's in the 80s. Arizona roof open today, last I saw. Butto wants to know Tucker or Alvarez, Chop. I guess it's Alvarez, but I don't know. They're both really good.
Yeah, I don't know, Dean. That's a flip a coin, man. Who knows? I mean, obviously Jordan is the better player, but either one of them could do the thing tonight.
Chop, do you have a BVP suggestion tonight? You have some knockers. You want to give it out to the people?
Sure, Dean. Let's do that. Let's go with the BVP suggestion. Just a suggestion on the BVP.
Bryce Harper.
Pressed enter on the algorithm, and there was a few names that popped up as potential candidates here. And Bryce Harper was one of them. But the guy we're going to go with, the algorithm is saying Connor Joe. Connor Joe is the guy we want to go with. And speaking of Connor Joe, we didn't get to Pittsburgh in the last segment, but they were my sneaky stack. Even though we just got the lineup and O'Neal Cruz is not in it, that hurts the overall stackability, but they're still a solid stack to me, under the radar. So, but Connor Joe, the BVP suggestion of the day, Dean, and the people do want the knockers. They want the knockers. Much to Squirrel's chagrin, my knockers are a couple of Houston Astros here. Tight, Dean, tight. Hanging low in the order, low-hanging knockers here. 5 and 6 hitter. Jeremy Pena, Yainer Diaz. I think if I'm going to attack this stack here, let's maybe stay away from Tucker and Jordan and Altuve. Let's go with Yainer, who's a reverse splits guy, likes the righties much better than lefties. And Pena improved, he changed up his stance this year. I don't know if I believe in all that, but he's obviously looking a lot better this year than he did the entire year last year. So let's go 5-6. Diaz, Pena.
Well, I was kind of alluding to it before as far as the lefties, some of the lefty power hitters on this slate facing reverse splits lefties. One of them is Tyler Anderson and Bryce Harper, left on left. If you care for BBP, 6 for 10 in his career, 3 doubles, 3 home runs, and 10 at-bats. 3 doubles, 3 home runs, and 10 at-bats, 3 strikeouts, and a walk. So if he's hit the ball, he's 6 for 7 with 3 doubles and 3 home runs. And yeah, I like the left on left stuff versus Tyler Anderson. Tyler Anderson also pretty fraudulent. Like good for him. He's got a 1.78 ERA. His Sierra is 5.07. His left on base is 95%. I rounded up. It's 94.9 if you want to get all technical. His BABIP is 181. Tyler Anderson, regression monster, is knocking on that door. It's telling him, first of all, bad news, teammate Mike Trout, he's done so. And secondly, your ERA is about to go to crap. And the Phillies are going to pummel Tyler Anderson. Too many walks as well, 10.7% walks and 17% Ks. Too many walks, not enough strikeouts. Not to talk about yesterday, but James Paxton, I think now is like 5 starts where he's walked at least 5 guys. It is outrageous with that. He is not a serious pitcher. It is insane what that guy is doing this year. But we do have crunch time knocking on the door. They'll be here momentarily. Squirrel, do you have any nuts for the people who's going to be banging one out, who's going yard?
Sure. Go with a couple. Gary Sanchez, home run from the catcher position, and Jock Peterson, revenge narrative knocker or Squirrel, or whatever it is.
I was gonna say Harper, but like Harper is like kind of too chalky, like the Harper Schwarber thing. I do like the left on left stuff. I'm curious how our projections are going to change. Are you doing anything significant, Squirrel, for Turnbull now? Like wherever you were at before, are you bumping him up now significantly?
Probably not significantly, but I'll give him a little bit of a bump up. I actually had a question about roofs. Now that we're talking about it, it's always better for the hitter if the roof is open, right? Like anywhere it's relevant. Because they're closing the roof because of like heat and humidity in general.
I think Arizona, Arizona's got to be better, right? It depends, I suppose, but I'm trying to think of a general rule. Is there any exception to that rule? Because it could be like 70 out, I suppose, and they would keep the roof open.
Well, you know what, Dean? It's a good thing that we have a weatherman who is actually just absolutely perfectly educated to give us the breakdown on this.
Yeah, he took 19 years of education for you not to call him a weatherman. He wants to be called a meteorologist.
He calls himself the weatherman all over Twitter and everything else, Dean.
I don't think he does. Kevin Roth, if somebody says, hey, what do you do for a living? You say, hi, my name's Kevin Roth. I'm a weatherman or I'm a meteorologist. What do you say?
I say meteorologist, but weather-man is fine. It's fine.
Fine, Dean. Get off your high horse, bro.
He wants the accolades. Come on. He woke up a lot of years of school.
Yeah. I prefer to actually, just remind people I have a master's degree in atmospheric science. No big deal. No big deal.
Roth, quick story. I had a buddy in high school, and you go to his house, and in his room he'd have these boxes like up to the ceiling, I was like, what's in those boxes, man? This is pre-internet. He would keep track of the weather every day from the news. Like he would keep, because that was his goal, was to be on TV, to be a meteorologist / weatherman on the news on TV. Yeah, but this was pre-internet, so now obviously he feels like a fool because he did all that work, and you could have just got it. Could have just waited a few years and got it all.
What is he doing with his life now? Like I'm intrigued at the dedication. We need to get back in touch with him.
Yeah, I do. I need to Google.
I think I saw him on Hoarders. Actually, I'm pretty sure I saw him.
No, dude, it was pretty impressive, man. He would pencil and paper, write down the weather thing every day, and just keep track of it. I don't know, dude. Maybe he was ahead of his time. Maybe he got it into a computer and uploaded it into the system, and he was ahead of everybody else. I don't know, but it was interesting.
We got a little tease of crunch time. Let's get the complete group. You got Keith Eyster, you got Kevin Roth, you got DerekCarty. Let's bring in crunch time. All right, DerekCarty, Keith Eyster, Kevin Roth. Are we done? We got anything else, boys, as far as the slate? Anything you want to throw out there, Squirrel, as a final thought? We can yield to crunch time if we we got about 45 minutes or so for them to play with, plenty of time for them to talk about the big boys slate. But I think any final thoughts, Squirrel, before we step aside and get out of here?
No, just don't be afraid to fade the chalk, and don't forget to give Spencer Turnbull a little bit of a bump up. No Mike Trout.
Carty, is the bat all over that with the Trout? I guess the lineup's not out just yet as far as the Angels. I'm not sure if you caught the news. I presume you did. But Trout is going to have surgery. That's a bummer. Probably a bummer for your season long. I bet you're a guy that was drafting Trout. I feel like you were.
Yeah, I only play in one mixed league, but I do have Trout in it. The rest are NL only, so thankfully I dodged that bullet. But Trout was a good value this year.
Are you not involved in the Tout Wars? Is that what you're referencing? Is that the one league you're in?
Yeah, for Tout Wars, I just do National League only.
Okay, that's for the real hardcore National only.
Yeah.
You have to know about like the backup second baseman is in the Cardinals or whatever.
Yeah,
all that stuff's important. All right, myself and Chop and Squirrel, we do appreciate you all watching the first portion. Do hit that like button, do subscribe, do turn on those notifications, and do not go anywhere because we got crunch time. Kevin Roth, Keith Eyster, DerekCarty. Take it away, Roth.
Good stuff. As always, welcome to it, ladies and gents. It's crunch time. I'm going to take you up to lock, two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got DerekCarty. I really liked this comment from Eric Johnson that says, Carty buys shirts with buttons on them just to not button them. just
truth.
It's well worded.
He's not wrong.
I like it. Carty, how are you, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Why on earth would you play in a fantasy baseball league that omits half of the teams? That is the most psychotic behavior I've ever heard in my life.
So when fantasy baseball was first started, that was the original format. It was American League only, and that was it. The reason it's better is because you have to go deeper into the player pool. You need to know more players. And if you're in a mixed league, everyone gets their stars. It's just like whose stars do the best. And like there's a bunch of guys that are good on that don't even get drafted. So it's like, well, who gets lucky in April and picks up the guy over the small sample size that winds up keeping it up the whole year? Like, you don't have that in National League only or American League only. Like everyone gets drafted. Make your decision before the season and ride it. You know, it's so much better.
Insane. It's insane. That is absolutely crazy. Like, I think you're a complete psychopath after hearing that, but I love it. And you seem to enjoy it. You like it that way.
Oh yeah. It's the best way.
Okay. All right. I think that's wild, but good for you. We got Keith Eyster, AKA the Iceman in the house as well. What up, Ice?
Not too much. Big old slate today, so plenty of options. You can go a lot of different ways. Can't wait to get into it and break it down for you guys.
Okay, well, before we do that, just a quick weather note. 3 games on the East Coast, Boston, New York, and Baltimore. Boston's going to be fine. In New York and Baltimore, there's at least a chance of a delay. I think if we get a delay in either game, it would more likely be in the latter half of the game. And I think the most likely outcome is that we avoid the delay in both games. So I don't think we should put a whole lot of stock in the concern for weather, because I assume there's a pitcher in one of those games, Ice, that we're interested in, New York or Baltimore.
Baltimore's not on the slate, so definitely do not have to worry about that. Sean Manaea is definitely in play in New York, though.
Okay. Well, I think if we do get a delay, it would be late enough, but 2 hours into the game. So I think it's going to be fine.
Manaea is not a guy that generally pitches very deep into the game anyway. You're chasing strikeout upside there. So I think that's totally fine for him.
Okay. Well, then I think we just kind of collectively ignore the low weather threat, and it will probably work out for all of us. With that, let's jump into the slate. Ice, why don't you catch me up a little bit on what the slate looks like, and then we'll go to Carty for some cash pitchers. Ice, that was you.
Sorry, my internet, like my screen just went blank or something. So I missed the last
you're
45
good.
seconds.
I was wondering if you could give me just a general overview of the slate, and then we'll go to Carty for some pitcher talk.
Yeah, general overview is just the amount of games. All the offenses are kind of bunched together. There's a couple that stand out, but there's only one team total over 5. A lot of them in the mid 4s. So a lot of offenses bunched together. On the pitching side, I think you're definitely going to have some chalk. Freddie Peralta is a guy that stands out. Mitch Keller is a really interesting name that we need to talk about. As far as like other studs go, they're not names that you would recognize. Ronaldo Lopez has been really good for Atlanta. He gets a high strikeout matchup against Seattle. But like there are like a dozen pitchers in play. So we're going to give our favorites. That doesn't mean that you can't play like somebody that's off the board on this slate. I would be very careful about playing into like a ton of chalk here today.
Okay, very good. Well, speaking of a ton of chalk, we bring in Carty. He is a chalk donkey if there's ever been one, because he plays cash, because he's supposed to. Carty, what are your thoughts here as far as, the right pitchers to play? And then I want your tournament thoughts as well.
Yeah, so Freddie Peralta is definitely the right pitcher to play in cash. Like he's kind of tier by himself at the top tonight. I do think Luis Castillo is really interesting, though. Like he has a much tougher matchup in the Atlanta Braves, who are obviously really, really good at baseball. But he's really good at baseball too, and we're getting a nice discount on him. I think definitely in tournaments on FanDuel, Castillo, you can roll out there. In cash on DraftKings, I don't mind pairing him with Peralta. I don't think that's wrong to do. And then we kind of have a tier of 5 or 6 guys that are, none of them are going to be like overly popular. None of them are going to be overly sneaky. But they're all like fine to just mix and match in tournaments with. You have Ronaldo Lopez, you have Logan Webb, you have Mitch Keller. And then you kind of have like a little bit of tier below them, but cheaper. You have like Sean Manaea, you have John Gray. So that's kind of, I think, the pool tonight that I care about.
Okay. Any other names you want to throw in tournament-wise, or you feel like that about covers everything you want?
That's everything I want.
Yeah. Okay. Ice, then I will bring you in here. What is the chalk that you're worried about? Is it Peralta, I guess?
Peralta's definitely going to be the highest owned pitcher. He's definitely the most talented pitcher on the slate. Strikeout rate's up at around 33% on the season. He gets a solid matchup against a Tampa Bay team that we're not really all that worried about, but there are just too many options for me today to try to get over a big ownership number. I'm going to be underweight on Freddie Peralta in tournaments. It doesn't feel good. Like I said, I do think he's the best pitcher on the slate. And it's a really good matchup for him as well. It wouldn't surprise me if he puts up a score that you need to have today. So for that reason, I will have some of him. I don't think I'm going to get to 40% of him as the field might. The other guy I want to be way under the field on is Mitch Keller. He just hasn't been good this season. His velocity's down a little bit, and it's one of the best matchups in baseball in one of the best pitching parks in baseball. But like his struggles early in the season here, the strikeout rate is all the way down at like 21%. He's just not a pitcher that I'm scared of beating me today. I think guys like Logan Webb and Luis Castillo in the same price range have way more upside. So I'm going to be fading Mitch Keller entirely. Guys I'll be overweight on. Cole Reagans is the one that really stands out on DraftKings for me. His last two starts have been, honestly, if you're just looking at the game log, they look brutal. His start against the Orioles, 10 balls in play, 9 of them fell in for hits. He only lasted an inning and a third and got removed from the game immediately. It was his worst start since he's been a Kansas City Royal. And then his most recent start came against the same team he faces today, the Blue Jays. He dominated them for 3 innings. He had 4 strikeouts in 3 innings. And then the rain started falling in that game. He lost mound conditions, got really bad. He was slipping all over the place in the 4th inning. And then in the 5th inning, the rain was coming down really hard and he couldn't grip the baseball. He was like drying it off, wiping his hand on his pants between every pitches. They ended up like turning the pitch clock off for him so that he could try to grip the baseball. So I'm like completely throwing out those last 2 innings of his start. And then the game was postponed after the 5th inning, which
when you said like 2 games ago, he was terrible. And then you were like, oh, but then he had 3 good innings in the next game. I was like, there's nothing you could say to save it, but it was the rain. So you did actually save it. I am now buying into this narrative. Okay, I'm interested.
I've got a little more for you. He's also a reverse splits lefty, and the Blue Jays are rolling out 8 right-handed batters. His strikeout rate against righties since he came over to Kansas City has been 30%. So this is like an elite strikeout pitcher. And on DraftKings, he's priced in the mid-range at just 7,800. It's a better strikeout matchup for him and the way that he pitches. Like he utilizes a curveball and an elite changeup that are both just outstanding strikeout pitches to righties. So I think he has as much strikeout upside as anyone on the slate. And looking at the Toronto lineup, you would not think that. So I hope he stays as low owned as he is. I'm going to be like 30-40% in my lineups. That's how on DraftKings. That's how much I like him. And we're currently projecting him for less than 10%. So I just think he's way too cheap for the talent level. For me, he's like a top 10 pitcher in all of baseball, and there's some extreme circumstances around his last 2 starts. But Cole Reagans is my dude. I'm going way overweight on. I will also be overweight on Sean Manaea. That Cubs lineup is really watered down. They're missing their 2 best hitters in Cody Bellinger and Seiya Suzuki. John Gray has been much better this season. The strikeout rate is back up for him. I like the matchup there against a low-power Washington team. And there's one other guy I wanted to mention. Why am I losing? Logan Webb, I think, is like he's just a really solid pitcher. He pitches deep into the games. Into games. There's not a lot of strikeout upside there, but he has the ability to go like 7 innings. The Giants, I have some exposure to them on the offensive side as well. But Webb is just a little bit too cheap for what he offers. Turnbull is another interesting name. Like you just get sticker shock looking at the price tag for the name Spencer Turnbull. Mm-hmm. He's done some things with his pitch mix that are intriguing. His strikeout rate is up to 28% on the season. And now there's no Mike Trout in the lineup, as Dean was alluding to in the transition. So this Angels offense looks pretty putrid without Mike Trout in that lineup. So I think Turnbull is really interesting, and that price is just going to help keep the ownership down on him.
Okay, good stuff, guys. Let's kick it over to the other side here and talk some bats. Ice, what are we doing stack-wise? I think you kind of alluded to there's a lot of teams that are viable here.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of teams, but I think there's clear tiers. The top tier, I would have the Astros and the Phillies. The Astros have the high team total. They're facing whatever's left of Carlos Carrasco. He doesn't strike anybody out anymore. He's been getting absolutely pummeled from a hard hit standpoint. And then the Phillies get a low strikeout lefty, but he has neutral or reverse splits. So that doesn't give us any concern about the lefties there. In Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. The Phillies are also an above average offense, so really like them today. Going off the board a little bit, I really like the Brewers. It's a very similar matchup to what the Phillies have in that they're facing a lefty without many splits. Beyond that, I think the Twins are way too cheap. I love their matchup today against Mike Soroka, who has walked more guys than he's struck out this season. That's not good. The Twins are also really cheap, especially on DraftKings. So they are one of my favorite offenses. The Diamondbacks get a matchup against a rookie. Corbin Carroll's really struggled for them, but they're still an above average offense, even with Carroll's struggles this year. And then I mentioned the Giants as a team. I'm playing both sides of that. I like the Giants bats. I like Logan Webb as well, but it's Fenway Park. It's one of the biggest ballpark upgrades that you can get in the league. So I think the Giants have more upside than we're used to them having in this spot. Then you're going way off the board. I think anything beyond that, a team I like as a mini stack for value is the Pirates because of their matchup against Alex Wood. Not a good ballpark for them there, but Alex Wood just doesn't have many skills left to be able to get hitters out. The Padres are interesting against Nick Martinez, and the Rangers against Mackenzie Gore, who can lose his control at times, I think are interesting.
Okay, very good. Carty, I want your thoughts, but first we should note it is Tournament Tuesday, so you got to jump into the RG Discord and go to, I think it's like the live stream channel, and then if you win and you've got the RG logo as your account picture, you get 2 weeks of premium RG. It's $10 buy-in this week, so make sure you are checking that out over on the RG Discord where all the cool kids hang out. Carty, what do you got for us here stack-wise?
It's one of those nights where I don't think anything's going to be overly popular. So I don't think you have to get too weird with it, especially since there's not a whole lot to pay up for at pitcher. So you don't have to, you don't have to get weird. The top stacks are the Astros, the Diamondbacks, the Phillies, the Padres, the Dodgers. I think you can definitely mix some Brewers in. For cheaper stuff, mini stacks, one-off stuff, I think White Sox and A's are priced well enough where they're fine. But really, I kind of think those top 5 teams, I don't think you have to do anything else to be different tonight. Okay.
Easy enough. We do, of course, want to go around the horn. First, I should note, never been a better time to sign up for RotoGrinders Premium, NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, MLB, you name it. We've got an option for whatever level you're looking for as well. You can get a 6-month combo subscription, exclusive price, $469.99. That is a savings of $250 as opposed to buying 6 individual months of combo premium. Or you can also get your first month of RG Premium for $40 off for a limited time. That's a promo going on. And if you want to test run things, it'll dip your toesies in the water there. 3-day pass, $19.99. Check the links in the description for more info. Let's go around the horn. Start with some catcher talk. Carty, what do we got?
Gary Sanchez is the guy that I like at catcher, which feels weird because it's the year 2024, but Gary Sanchez is hitting in the middle of the order for the Brewers, and they're facing a mediocre to weak lefty in Tyler Alexander, and he's $3K. And so I think he's kind of the obvious play tonight. If you do have money to spend up, William Contreras rather in the same lineup is like $2.5K more, but he's great. He's a top option on the slate. I think Will Smith, I mentioned the Dodgers being one of the best teams. Same with the Phillies and Real Muto. So Will Smith, Real Muto are great. Ryan Jeffers against Soroka is great. Yainer Diaz, also one of those top 5 teams with Houston, is going to be good. So I think it's the kind of slate where playing a catcher in your stack makes sense because all the best stacks have good catchers, or punt it with Gary Sanchez.
Okay. Ice, any other thoughts or just kind of an agreement with that overall philosophy?
Very, very similar thoughts. I like the same guys, and I love the Brewers situation. The Brewers are my favorite stack on the entire slate, and I love that Gary Sanchez is going to be popular, and I can get that stack different by paying up for William Contreras. So William Contreras is one of my favorite tournament hitters on the entire slate. Glad that Carty pointed that out. I don't even have another name to add. Fermin for the Royals is really cheap. Is maybe only one other name that I would add.
Okay, but you already have Gary Sanchez, who is cheap and better, right?
I mean, yes, but there's nothing saying that Freddie Fermin cannot outscore Gary Sanchez today.
All right, fair enough. First base, what do you got?
So sticking with the Brewers theme, Rhys Hoskins is my favorite option here. Love the price tag, big time power, below average strikeout matchup. Alexander, probably not going to get it by him. I love Bryce Harper as well. Lefty always seems to be a thing that holds ownership down. Alec Boehm has been one of the best hitters in baseball so far this season, so absolutely love him. He has third base eligibility, so if you wanted to play Harper and Boehm in a Philly stack together, you can do that. Carlos Santana is a cheap Minnesota bat. Shohei Ohtani obviously is an elite spend-up option. Don't mind Lamont Wade in Giant stacks. Mentioned the ballpark upgrade for them. Alex Kirilloff has first base eligibility as well for the Twins.
Carty, first base.
I love the lefty thing that he mentioned and it holding ownership down, because the top 3 bats on the slate tonight at first base are all lefty, and none of them project to be like crazy owned. You have Harper, who we mentioned. You have Ohtani, who I think is great tonight. And you have Freddie Freeman in the same lineup. And I don't think they're going to be all that popular because they're expensive. They're lefty. Like, it's just, there's other things to prioritize on this slate. So I like all 3 of them. On FanDuel, I still like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Quite a bit at a reduced price tag. But Harper, I think, is the guy in cash that makes the most sense. Rhys Hoskins over on DraftKings batting second against Alexander, and that Brewers lineup looks good. But I think you can definitely punt it tonight if you want to. Andrew Vaughn's only $3K, hitting in the middle of the lineup in a good park against Woods Richardson, who's just not very good. This is a spot where you can definitely save money and then spend up more at some other positions. Because again, the top guys are all lefty. They're all good, but none of them are like great that you have to get in like a cash game setting. So just punting it is fine with me on DraftKings at least. Yeah.
Okay. How about second base?
Mookie Betts is going to be the top guy, as he pretty much always is. The Dodgers are great. Not a priority spend up, especially on DraftKings, 6.6K, but in your stacks, definitely. Same deal with Jose Altuve in those Houston stacks, Ketel Marte in those Arizona stacks, Edouard Julien in the Minnesota stacks, I think look good, or even as a one-off. I think this is another spot, though, where you can just go down and save money and find something elsewhere. On DraftKings, the Nicky Lopez thing I kind of like. He was min price for a while. He's up all the way up to 2.2K now. He's their leadoff hitter in a good park against a bad pitcher at kind of a weak position. So I have no problem going down and saving money. On FanDuel, if that's what you decide to do, I think there's guys I prefer to do that with. Like Lopez is in the mix, but you also have Whit Merrifield in the Philly lineup for 2-3. You have Michael Massey for 2-2 in the Kansas City lineup. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts at second base.
Ice, any other names?
I love Julien's price. Big power guy, definitely somebody I have a ton of exposure to in tournaments. Marcus Semien is really interesting as a one-off. I mentioned the Texas stack, but I prefer chasing power just as much. Semien is certainly a good option to do that with. Tyro Estrada is decent in the Giants order. He's buried all the way down in the lineup, but Fenway Park is a nice upgrade for that offense. Michael Massey is one of my favorite cheap guys in a Royal stack. Berrios has allowed some left-handed power in his career. And Ozzy Albies is another guy. Tough matchup against Castillo, but he has struggled with lefties a little bit this season.
Okay. The narrative god, Alan, pointing out that it is Julien's birthday as well. So just take him up just a little bit. Yep. You just check him off for one homer at least. That brings us to third base. Ice.
Bregman is a guy who's grading out really well today. The matchup is great against Carrasco. I don't love his skill set at this point in his career. He doesn't steal as many bases as he used to. He's never quite had the power we wanted to. He's fine in an Astros stack, but I don't want to play him as a one-off as the most popular third baseman on the slate. I like to pivot to Jose Ramirez a ton. Hunter Brown has really struggled this season. Alec Boehm is my favorite tournament third baseman. I mentioned him at first. Matt Chapman, I think, is an elite tournament option today as well with that ballpark upgrade. If you're looking to save some money, Patrick Wisdom is one of my favorite one-offs, a guy with big power against the lefty. And Davis Wenzel for the Rangers, certainly a fine punt option.
Patty the Tooth is my home run call of the night for what it's worth. Love that. All right, Carty, your thoughts at third?
Patty the Tooth. I love it.
It's such a good nickname. Shout out to Chop for that. This absolutely wonderful nickname. Third base, Carty.
I agree on Bregman in the sense that like he hasn't been good this year. His skill set's really not like ideal for DFS. The power's never been fantastic. The BAT X has never really been a believer. But at 2.7 on FanDuel in cash games, I don't mind playing him, or obviously in your Houston stacks. I don't like him as just a one-off. I don't really think the upside's there, but just in terms of pure value, I don't have a problem playing Bregman. I think on FanDuel, he's probably the right play. But if you want to get up a little bit, Matt Chapman, I love tonight. Jose Ramirez, I think, is really good also. After that, it's kind of just other stuff, and I don't think you have to do a whole lot of other things at third base to like really be all that different. You have Cabrian Hayes, who I think is fine. You have, that's kind of it, really. Patty the Tooth at his price is fine against a lefty. I don't really love the spend down options too much tonight.
Okay, how about shortstop?
Same as at second base. Mookie Betts is pretty much always the top guy, but he's expensive. Kind of same deal for Trey Turner. In that Philly stack, I like a lot, or even as a one-off, he's fine. Bobby Witt, even though KC doesn't have, the supporting pieces that LA and Philly does, he's fantastic also. He's in a pretty good spot. I think Willy Adames, though, is the guy that kind of makes the most sense from like a cost projection standpoint. Like he's not as good as these other guys, but he projects well, and he is considerably cheaper, especially on DraftKings. Those other guys are like 6K, and he's 4.4 hitting cleanup against a mediocre lefty. So I like Adames a lot. On FanDuel, Corey Seager is too cheap at 3.4K. Even though it's lefty-lefty, I don't mind some Corey Seager. Adames is only 200 less. You can play him, but I probably find the extra 200 for Seager on FanDuel. Or I go down to Carlos Correa, who's against Mike Soroka, who's just been he's never been the same since the injury. He's been really bad this year.
Yeah. Okay. Ice, shortstop.
Yeah. Betts, Turner, and Witt are all elite options if you have the money, and shortstop is generally a position we want to spend up for because of the massive upside from the hitters at this position. But I think you can go down. I love the Willy Adames call. He's one of my favorite hitters as well today. CJ Abrams as a one-off against John Gray. Like I have a ton of exposure to Gray, but if somebody's going to get him today, CJ Abrams has certainly the ability to do that. Has always been able to run. Gray gives up a lot of stolen bases, and now he's starting to add some power as well. So, Abrams, one of my favorite tournament one-offs. Jeremy Pena, I think, is fairly priced, and Carlos Correa against Soroka is an option I like.
Okay, that brings us to the outfield. Ice, so what do we got?
The Astros guys are certainly fantastic. Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, as they generally are on most slates, but facing a below-average strikeout pitcher today, they are especially great. I mentioned Schwarber and Harper as lefty-lefty options that I absolutely love today. So Schwarber is one of my favorite options here. Fernando Tatis is a guy who's kind of off the board today. I'm not scared of Nick Martinez whatsoever, so I like him a good amount. Alex Kirilloff, a guy I mentioned at first, I do like him in the outfield, as well as his teammate Max Kepler. Chris Taylor in the Dodgers stack is certainly fine. He's way down in the 9-hole, but he is really cheap, and theoretically there's still some power in there. Wisdom has outfield eligibility as well. Kike Hernandez, another Dodgers punt option. Let's see here. Anybody else? Mike Yastrzemski in that Giants lineup, I don't mind. Adolis Garcia, very similar to the Marcus Semien play, just a couple of Texas guys that I don't mind using as one-offs or mini stack them together.
Okay, Carty, outfield.
Yordan Alvarez, I think, is the clear top guy tonight. Like, he's against Carrasco. He's really, really good. He has the platoon advantage. A lot of the other top guys don't. And they're still good. Like I mentioned at first base, but I like him at outfield, where on FanDuel, that's the only place you can play him. Ohtani's fantastic tonight. I like Harper. I like Schwarber. I love the Fernando Tatis call. I don't know why people aren't really going to be on him that much, because he's great. It's a good spot. I like Tatis a lot. The money saver guy that I like the most tonight on both sites is Tommy Pham. I don't know why it took this long for Tommy Pham to get signed, and it was to a minor league deal by the Chicago White Sox. Like, I don't get it. Like, there's, talk sometimes that maybe he's not a good clubhouse guy, or I have no idea, but Tommy Pham's like an above average major league hitter. Now he's in a good park against a bad pitcher. He's super priced down. I like Tommy Pham a lot tonight as a way to save money. Other cheaper stuff that I like tonight on DraftKings, Lawrence Butler for 2.3 looks pretty good. Tyler Nevin for 2.4 I think is fine. Over on FanDuel, you have Whit Merrifield, you have Jake McCarthy, you have Kepler, you have Jung-Hoo Lee. You have a lot of options over there. But I think the priorities for me tonight are like Alvarez, Philly guys, Tatis.
Okay. Let's do some home run calls, Carty. I will let you kind of lead things off. You can do it from the betting angle, your favorite bets, or you can do it, DFS and pick somebody chalky and sneaky, whichever you prefer.
All right. So let's take a quick peek here.
In the meantime, QQ for Roth, are the Knicks and Jalen Brunson going to advance tonight? Yeah. Philly's cooked. Embiid is, I don't even know if he's playing. He missed shoot around. They're done. They know they're done. The Knicks are the type of team to just they're just going for your throat in this situation. And Embiid doesn't have the heart. Knicks are winning. Lock it in. Okay. Put that aside. Hopefully you've got some home run calls, Carty. What do you got?
Yeah. Top guy of the night's Kyle Schwarber. Kind of an under the radar guy. Ryan Jeffers projects really well for a home run tonight. So I like him. And then on the betting side, the best value tonight is Ha-Sung Kim at plus 1,200 or Lars Nootbaar at plus 1,000. And that's home runs.
Okay, very good. Ice, you got some Icers Flysters for us here. What do you got?
Yeah, William Contreras is one of my favorite hitters on the entire slate. He's going yard today. And then for a cheap option, I will go with the Cincinnati Reds. Nick Martini, fifth in that order today. I like him as a value bet in the outfield.
Okay, very good. A reminder, Patty Wisdom, Patty the Tooth is my home run call as well. What do we got here? Oh, Carty, your favorite stolen base prop tonight. I don't know if you can do that.
I can do that.
Of course. Why did I even ask?
Top stolen base prop is, this one actually projects really well. There hasn't been a ton of value on steals this year. Lawrence Butler leading off for Oakland, plus 1,400 is your best line at PointsBet, plus 1,300 at 365 is the next. He projects well for a steal tonight. And by well, I mean he has a 9.9% chance of stealing a base, which is not high, but at plus 1,400, it's very good value.
Right. Okay. Very cool. I didn't realize that the stolen base, that you could bet on it and that the numbers were like that, where you could get plus 1,400 on something like that.
A couple of years ago, stolen bases was like the best market, just value all over the place.
Interesting. Okay, cool. We have, I don't know when baseball starts, probably 15 minutes or so until lock. Let's dive into some QQs. If you've got them, they can be about baseball, they can be about basketball, they can be about dinner. And if we run out of questions, we'll open it up to anything you want to ask about. Starting in the RG Discord, but looks like we have checked most of those off. Oh, my kids are just coming home, just walking in the door, just screaming, just baby screaming just as they're walking. It's going to be a great night. Let's see here. Jason says, Joey Lupifido, cheap bat of the night, mark it down. Ice, any interest in this feller?
Yeah, he's one of Houston's best prospects. Just got the call up today. Has 13 home runs in AAA already this year. 24 home runs, 25 home runs split between three levels last year. So good power profile on him. He's cheap. Certainly don't mind that call.
Your favorite GPP stack on DK? I will let both of you answer that.
Did you say favorite cheap or just favorite overall?
Just favorite GPP.
I mean, give me Houston. I think they're the best offense, and they're not even going to be that owned.
I will go Milwaukee.
Okay, great. Who are your favorite Cleveland bats today, Ice?
Cleveland, not generally a team I love to stack because they don't have a ton of power. Jose Ramirez is always the option as the favorite. Like they're overpriced, especially on DraftKings. I don't mind the matchup against Hunter Brown. He's been really bad. I don't like their pricing today. If I had to rank them, like I said, it's Ramirez 1. Then I'd probably fill a catcher position with Bo Naylor. Andres Jimenez, I don't love the price tag. And Naylor's kind of the same thing with Josh Naylor. Don't love his price tag either, but those are the guys I would go to next.
Okay. Maybe my favorite question of the baseball season so far is from Robin. And Robin's question is, what is Carty's Olive Garden order? Carty, are you a Olive Garden frequenter, and do you have an order?
Yeah, sorry, I can't say. I mean, when I was younger, I used to go to Olive Garden sometimes, but it's been a long time. I'm sorry.
Ice, can we bring you into this? Am I alone? I love Olive Garden.
It's been a really long time since I've eaten Olive Garden.
You guys are missing out. The chicken parm is phenomenal with a little fettuccine Alfredo, but really you got to get the tour of Italy.
Great. It's hard to make bad chicken parm. Like
right,
that, that was my order when I would go there. Parm.
Which is why it's perfect for a place like Olive Garden, where it's like, you're not getting the best, but it's pretty damn good. Yeah, tour of Italy is the chalk there. Toasted ravioli getting some love. Anyways, I think Olive Garden's like kind of legit for chain restaurant. And I don't care what people say. What do we got? Thoughts on the Nats, Carty? Any thoughts on the Nats?
I just don't think they're necessary tonight. They're a bad offense. They're against a decent pitcher, and it's the kind of slate where you really don't have to get weird.
Okay. Maryi Don Yeezy says Ice is the Astros rookie prospect on DK. I don't know. Do we know who
I haven't seen him in the pool. When someone asked about him before, I looked for him because I hadn't noticed him yet today, and I don't think I see him in there.
Yeah, I know he wasn't in there earlier. Sometimes they add guys midday, but I have not seen him pop up. So that's the Loperfido guy we were talking about earlier.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right. What else do we have? Ice, Santana and Keller, or Kirilloff and Reagans on DK, twin stack. I could also flip Kepler for Kirilloff.
That's the second one for me, and it's not close.
Ooh, nice. Okay. All the way from South Carolina, we got Daryl George in the house. Yahoo Cash question, Carty. Third base, Riley or Breggers?
It feels weird to say Bregman, but I think it is.
Okay. All right.
I mean, against Castillo, like it's a really tough spot.
Yeah. Peter says, Carty, Dodgers bottom of the order stack on DK.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't think it's the kind of thing you have to do to like make your Dodgers stack different, because I don't think they're going to be that popular tonight that you have to get them different, but you'll certainly save some money that way if that's, if that's kind of the part of the lineup that fits with the rest of your pieces.
Okay. Hoosiers Hang Banner says, what is Tim up to tonight? Probably watching hockey. If I know Tim, the answer is he's watching hockey. Ice, what are your thoughts on Knack on DK? Knack?
Not necessary on this large of a slate. The matchup isn't horrible, but he hasn't shown a ton of strikeout ability. You don't need to go there. There's a dozen other options I'd go to before him.
Okay. MGS Hub says, Carty, what was the stolen base? Who are we talking about?
That was Butler for Oakland. I think it was plus 1,400 or something good.
Okay. Tim says, are you stalking me? I know your life, brother. I know your life, and I love it. Let's see. No Pirates love, Mab says. They're low owned. Wood's not very good. Either of you have any interest there?
I don't think the low owned matters that much tonight. Like, everyone's kind of low owned.
Yeah. Ice?
Yeah, I have a little interest in a mini stack. It's not a great ballpark, but the matchup I touched on a little bit in the stacks. The righties in particular, like Connor Joe, Brian Hayes, I think look really good. Olivares.
Okay. Hammer says, Ice, I'm not recommending this, but if you stack the White Sox, you can do whatever you want with the rest of your lineup. Is that something you also are not recommending?
I am definitely not recommending that.
Okay, that's fair. Carty, top 2 pitchers with Peralta in cash if I can't stomach Castillo versus the Braves. Oh, top 2 SP2s to pair with Peralta if I can't stomach Castillo.
Yeah, personally, I think I'm just doing Castillo. But I think you're probably looking at like Logan Webb or John Gray. I think would probably be my next 2 choices.
Okay. Ice, FanDuel cash, 3K left at first. Would you rather Kirilov, Vladdy Daddy, or Ginger Turner?
I'm going to go Kirilov there.
Okay. Very good. Any love for an Oakland mini stack on FanDuel? One of you guys brought him up, no?
I brought him up as just a cheap option. Like, I don't think you're full stacking them, and I think the price savings are a little more valuable on DraftKings than they are on FanDuel. I mean, they're fine. Like, for their prices, they're fine, but the upside is obviously kind of limited.
Okay.
I'm
Eric,
fading Keller, so I do have some interest there. Like, it just makes sense if I'm going to bet on Keller to fail anyway, that I have a little bit of exposure there. Plus, Carty guaranteed me a stolen base out of Lawrence Butler. So
1.9% chance. Guaranteed.
I always like asking Carty these questions because he answers them very honestly. Eric says, Carty, will Hoskins go yard today?
I think he's got a good chance. It's obviously a really good matchup for the Brewers for power tonight. Let me see. Hoskins has a 21% chance of hitting a home run tonight.
So the answer is no, generally speaking.
Well, I mean, the answer is always most likely no.
Right.
21% is fairly high.
Okay. All right. Jay, he must be watching the show fairly often because he says his home run call is my boy Yazzer Badewski. I like that. It was kind of sad when someone said his name today and pronounced it correctly. I was hurt a little bit. Cash first base catcher position, Carty, Sanchez or Vlad? I feel like weren't we on Sanchez? Oh, well, this is catcher first.
That's FanDuel, though, where you don't have to play a catcher.
Right.
I think I'd play Vlad before I play Sanchez.
Okay. What do we got?
But I prefer to not play Vlad. Like, I prefer to get up to like Harper if I can.
Okay. Peter says, Ice, what do you think about Gore as an SP2 in a DK tournament?
I don't hate it. I would like it a lot more on a different slate that wasn't so loaded in the mid-range at pitcher, in my opinion. But I think their strikeout upside, it's not the best matchup, but like I said, on a different slate, I'd be all about it. But tougher matchup for him. He needs a lot of things to go right against Texas.
Okay. Hammer says, Ice, I like Javier. Do I have my head up my ass side? It's good. It's well worded.
I wasn't sure where we were going with Javier until he added that ending. Yeah. So, man, he's been really good. I love the ballpark for pitchers. The problem is the strikeout upside, and he's not especially cheap. If he was 1,000 cheaper, I would have some interest. The Mets don't strike out a lot, though, and like his strikeouts have ticked up this season, and he's better than people realize, I think. But another guy that a different slate, I would have interest. Not today.
Okay. Hoosiers hang banners says last piece, Carty, Schwarbs or Tucker, DK single entry.
Probably Schwarber. I like them both, though.
Okay. Carty, K-Town's finest. Is any love for a Nevin and Butler as a pairing versus Keller?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Cheap Oakland stuff is good.
All right. Ice, FanDuel, GPP, single entry, a pitcher under 8,500. Who is the pitcher that got shelled his last 2 starts that you kind of like?
He's not under 8,500 on FanDuel, unfortunately. I think it's going to be John Gray. Let me just take a quick look here. 8,500. Yeah, John Gray is the definite answer there.
Okay. What else do we got? Jimenez and Pham with a Minnesota stack. Ice, Jimenez and Pham with a Minnesota stack.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. White Sox, any interest? Ice, you gave that the negative.
Not for me today.
Yeah. Carty, I assume it's a no from you.
No, not for me.
Yeah. All right. Peter says, Carty, I got 5,200 left on DK. Who is the best outfielder with that amount of cash?
What was the number again?
5,200 in the outfield on DK.
I'd like the extra 100 to get up to Tatis. Honestly, I'm looking at the bat because I don't see anything in that range. The top guy under 5,200 is Jung-Hoo Lee for 4,200. So spend that 1,000 elsewhere, I guess, or find an extra 100 to get up to Tatis.
Okay. Quick shout out to Steve. He says, has anyone heard the song $1 Million Baby yet? It's fire. So Steve posted a random song on Twitter, and I kind of clicked it just out of curiosity. What kind of music does Steve like? I don't know. I'll probably hate it. And I played it, and I actually do think that song is fire. I am in agreement with you fully, Steve. I don't know. Not my kind of music generally, but that was pretty awesome. Good call. Best non-chalky FanDuel cash stack, which is always weird because we don't really stack on cash. But Ice, the question is best non-chalky FanDuel cash stack. We don't care about chalk. We don't care about stacks, but that's what the question is.
Yeah, the question doesn't make a lot of sense because, like you said, we don't care about chalk and like you're trying to play chalk almost in cash.
Yeah.
The Brewers are my favorite team. They're not the most popular team. If you were avoiding Gary Sanchez, I guess he's not as popular on FanDuel, but he still is one of the higher owned bats. Milwaukee's going to be my answer there, just because I think Houston will be the highest owned. So that would be the chalk stack.
Okay. DK Cash question, Carty, Webb or Castillo? I've got Webb right now, but I have $300 left. I assume that means he could get up to Castillo.
I'll take Castillo. It's not a hard stance. Like the matchup is as scary as they get, but I'll take Castillo.
Okay. Carty, right back to you from a side FanDuel cash question, 3v3, Peralta, Gary the Goat, Sanchez, and Hoskins, or Keller, Kirilloff, and Tucker.
Well, was this tournaments or cash?
It was cash.
It's the first one for cash.
Okay. Ballers with 3 Z's. Ballers says Bohm rather, or Bregman as a one-off. Ice. Bohm or Bregman? Was Bohm one of your favorites or one?
Bohm was one of my favorites. That's him over Bregman, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Better DK tournament, late night 3-man stack. Ice. Cincy or Arizona?
I think they both have potential today. I'm going to go like the answer. The right answer is probably Arizona. I like Cincinnati a little bit better today. Arizona has a lot higher team total. So if you're looking for a little bit of safety, like safety is a relative word, but I think Arizona is more likely to perform well, but I think Cincinnati actually has more upside.
Okay. Yep. That's me, says Roth. Do you like Indy tonight as well? I don't have a strong take. I know my Knicks are going to get it done. I don't know about what's going to happen there. DK large field GPP, Carty, Jacob Young or Andy Pages. Last piece, I've got $3,300 left. Young or Pages?
It's Pajes. I think that's probably the guy I go with. I mean, I don't love either tonight, but he's probably my choice.
Okay. What do we got? Doing pretty good. We got any questions? I mean, we got a lot of talk in chat, but I'm not seeing any questions. This is well done, gentlemen. Technically about 2 minutes until lock. Hey, while we're here, make sure you hit us with the thumbs up. It's free content. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. We're trying to keep this show free, and we need the eyeballs. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. We're going to charge you for it. So make sure you hit us with that thumbs up. And let's see. Yeah. Favorite shortstop on FanDuel, Ice. Your favorite short on FanDuel.
I'm going to go CJ Abrams. I just like his upside. I like John Gray today too, but CJ Abrams matches up really well against John Gray's weaknesses.
Okay. Any interest with Seth Brown as a one-off in FanDuel tournaments, Carty?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay. If you were forced to make a bet tonight, what team would it be on? If I were forced to make a bet, I would do what I do all the time, but except it's definitely going to work tonight, which I'm not allowed to say that. I think it's a great bet, which is Jalen Brunson ladder. Give me ladder his points. He is literally the only
all the way to 40, baby.
Yeah, he's the only offense that team has. I would ladder it up to 50. Like he just is going to take all the shots. He's the only offensive player they have. I want all his points. That is the bet that I would make. Favorite pitcher in a FanDuel large field tournament? Charlie, 1 minute, sweetie. 1 minute.
For me,
go for it.
Yeah, for me, it's Cole Reagans. Nobody's playing him because he's priced up at 9,200, and I think he has as much upside as Peralta today.
Okay. Hey, with that, we've essentially hit the lock. My kid is literally looking outside the door. It's like a glass door and just staring at me with her big eyes, just like, please come help. And I can't say no to that. So I'm going to get on out of here. For Ice, for Carty, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.